Hey, it's almost Sunday afternoon. It is 11:57 a.m. It is July 28th, and I decided to come on and make my video to kind of talk about, the things that I believe, okay? Because I know a lot of people are always questioning what exactly it is that I believe. I remember when I was at work one time, somebody just asked me point blank, "What is it that you believe?" And I'm like, I'm only here to get paid, okay? But as everyone knows, I've dealt with a lot of religious targeting, and I've put the pieces together so well that it completely burned me out. But I did say that I was going to post my beliefs because people feel as though I am such a mystery that they want to know. Okay, and the reason why I know this is because I've done intuitive messages, and people are, I would say that when you're dealing with people who are different than you wonder, are they a threat to you? What is it that's going on in their mind? Who is Maria Gordon, right? Everybody knows that I am the daughter of James Calvin Gordon, okay? Now, I was not his actual biological daughter. Apparently we are a clone generation, a generation of clones. And this is something that I'm just, fully coming to understand and accept and deal with, okay? Now, because I've lived a unique life, I'm obviously going to have a different perspective on certain things because I have a very unique life. I've lived I would say a very sad life, mainly because of me having to be in an experiment that was associated with Joseph Mengele. Okay, and I think everybody knows that Joseph Mengele was known as the angel of death, I believe, and so he was not the most most caring person. And obviously, because this whole foundation on the whole cloning thing, the Joseph Mengele, it let rest on a foundation that was negative from the beginning, from the very ground up. Okay, we know that the intelligence behind these sort of designs come from the demiurge, okay, and it's also carried on by things like the archons and there's other legions of demons here that reside on the earth in physical form when they can inhabit it, and they can also become into people through mind work, okay, like for example, I don't know if these deities were actually formed into the how can I say this, came to these people in the physical form as aliens, or did they tap into alien information through maybe forms of divination, mind work, intuitive work that they could communicate with whatever. But whatever the case is, I do know that this sort of stuff, for the very longest time, that the Earth's surface has been, I would say, flooded with the energy and the spirit of the demiurge, right? So because I have dealt with so much in my life and dealt with in the fake family setup, moving from place to place, never always having some sort of reputation and having to defend myself against, vicious attacks that I wasn't even aware of. So I've had a very hard life. Okay, a very hard life, as well as a lot of other people who call themselves targeted individuals, especially if they are targeted individuals who are clones. Okay, because like I said, there's a certain atmosphere that gets around you, and it surrounds you on purpose, because the point is that the isolation, the smear campaign, okay, it's easier to be manipulated and forced into things if you don't have a support system. There's a lot of things that go involved in this, okay, and because like I said, we live in a system that had a lot of demiurge influence, okay. There's a lot of people on this earth that walk around doing a lot of damage, whether they do it through the ignorance of following the instructions of people who are under the influence of the demiurge, or they themselves are just ignorant. Now, I will say, I do look at ignorance as something that, when it comes to my belief system, is something that I do not have patience for, because it's ignorance that carries on the evil actions of people. Why? Because they need to be able to use discernment. And if they don't have discernment, then they're not filtering out things that could be evil, and they're allowing it to happen. So let me go into my first I'm going to call it my first core belief. I separated these into beliefs. These beliefs that I have that I walk around in my mind and I think, right? Because what I think and how I believe pretty much shapes my conduct and how I deal with people and my interactions. So I started with the core beliefs, and then the other half of it, I will be talking about what is the other one? What did I name it? Okay, I listed 14 of them. My standards of conduct. My standards of conduct are based upon my core beliefs. Okay, so let's start with the first core belief. Don't have too many core beliefs. Okay, it's not very complex, but these are the things that pretty much keep me going, and how it's the foundation on how I make my decisions and how I formulate my decisions when it comes to my standards of conduct. Okay, so the first core belief that I'm going to talk about is something everybody's heard me say this, okay? Probably since I started this channel in 2015. But my first core belief is that life on earth is hell, okay? And we already know that there's a lot of people who walk around with skewed logic. They have strange, questionable morals, okay, twisted ideologies, and hidden truths, okay? And the fact that people have walked around in this sort of deception or this mind fog or this state of ignorance that they accept, then obviously interacting with certain individuals can be very difficult, right? Because especially if you're a target individual. Now, my core beliefs and everything that I'm saying here is based on my unique situation. Okay, so like I said, when it comes to me having beliefs that are meant for everybody to live by, that becomes very difficult, right? So that was never my goal. Okay, I'm explaining my beliefs because this is how it is for me. Okay, now there's certain things that I do in my life that's going to be able to benefit a lot of people. But when it comes to how I move, how I operate, how I think on certain issues, it's going to be very individualistic. Okay, now life is hell for a lot of people, not just a targeted individual. We see many people making videos about, their work life issues with their family. This is something that happens to a lot of people. But in my life, because I was set up as a clone and I had to deal with like the religious persecution, I had to deal with a fake family, I had to deal with, meeting people, being set up and all these sort of things. I'm even more aware of it. Okay, and because I'm somebody who could end up dealing with or being in a situation where I'm very likely to be abused. I mean, obviously, I have a life to where I feel as though it's hell. Okay, I don't have the ability to just make a friend, meet somebody, have a friend, and it's just a friend. No, this friend's going to want to sit here and spy on me, talk about me, plot on me, and everything else. Okay, so my life is very ghoulish, meaning like the people that come into my life usually had some sort of agenda. Okay, and that agenda is, to me, it's just another piggyback off of the whole, what do you call it? The whole agenda of like tearing me down as a person, because it's a direct link to the cloning system, which was something that was devised by the demiurge, right? So a lot of these people that I've dealt with in the workplace, as well as some of these people that were in my celebrity soul tribe that I've distanced myself from, could very well be under the influence of people of the demiurge, right? On top of that, it's very burdensome to take care of yourself in a world where the job market is just an absolute nightmare. And the people can't be trusted, everything down the line. So because of this, the demonic influence, the common man has a hard time understanding, what is right and what is wrong. There's a lot of times I've seen people talk about certain things and they're convinced that they're being righteous when they are the epitome of being debaucherous. Okay, there's a lot of skewed knowledge. There, what do you call it? Skewed ideas, skewed logic. Okay, the very fact that sorry, the very fact that this brainwashing system lasted as long as it did, with the layers and layers and layers of mind control. That layers and layers of mind control. If you have layers and layers of mind control, okay, that right there is a form of being under demonic influence. Okay, if it's right and righteous and something that's upright, it doesn't have to be deceptive, right? So we live in hell. Look how many people got involved in this. Look how many people, mistreated my father, mistreated me. Okay, so with that understanding, I understand that the overall goal in my life is to combat the actions and influence of hell as an individual. Meaning, I can't sit here and rely on other people to identify hellish actions or things that people are doing against me, and stand up for me. I always have to stand up for myself because I have to understand that the outside influence that people have been sucked into is stronger than me. It goes back decades. You see what I'm saying? So the only, and it's almost like you were in like the movie not the Grateful Dead. I'm thinking about The Walking Dead. Sorry, one of those deads, right? Okay, like you're in the Walking Dead, right? And you're walking through a community and there's a bunch of like zombie type people. Okay, you cannot assume that one of those people are going to help you out. You cannot assume that, you can't assume that. I can't assume that. Okay, so the only thing I can do is just keep walking forward. I have to be very careful of what people say and what they do. I live in hell. Okay, my life has been made a hell because I've been in this program. So, with that in mind, that being my core belief, obviously the main goal in my life is to navigate through it. Okay, and the only way I can do that would be through knowledge. Now, a lot of people know that, which leads me to number two. Okay, so a lot of people know that, I would say when it came to this issue of my targeting, I was able to stand up for myself. Okay, I was able to tell people what my stance was on the issue and have what they call receipts. Okay, and the reason why I have receipts is because of knowledge. Now, I will say that when it comes to knowledge, okay, people who walk around like myself, who's able to explain things because they understand this, is because I've read about this sort of stuff before. Okay, when it comes to knowledge, what's important to have is number one, drive, okay, and be inquisitive. Okay, if you're inquisitive and you have drive, um, you're going to want that knowledge. You're going to see the value in it. Okay, but if you look at knowledge as just like another assignment, it might be drudgery to you, and you're less likely to, maintain that information that you receive. But my point is that knowledge is what helped me understand and how to deal with the irate people that I had to deal with in the workplace. Okay, it was knowledge that allowed me to understand what really went on in my family dynamic. Why is it that my family treated me this way from day one? Okay, because it was knowledge that let me understand that this is a form of brainwashing. It was knowledge that let me know the source of these sort of experiments. Where do they come from? You know what I mean? Because I've been reading about things like the Nazis. I've been reading about stuff like, demons, angels. I'm an occultist, so I've read about things. I've read about a lot of different things that were literally outside of what I call myself an occultist and a philosopher, right? But things that were outside of my level of expertise, because sometimes you have to connect the dots, like when it comes to history, right? Now, you know that a lot of history is skewed. There's a lot of missing chunks. Like I was talking about in one of my videos a few days ago about, me doing a reading and trying to like figure out the map. Okay, like, okay, this is supposed to be like 3,300 years after this particular, King Tut has died. Okay, but I'm looking at these people and I'm thinking, okay, the years don't add up. Okay, and the reason why I'm starting to think for myself is because self-knowledge is important too. Being able to use think outside the box is important. I value knowledge. I value my ability to use critical thinking. Now, I know critical thinking is something that they say they teach in school, okay? And I've known a lot of kids who were in my targeting situation, who were targeting me, who've probably gone through the critical thinking classes, okay? I personally think that critical thinking is not something that, it can be taught in theory, but you either can think critically or you can't. You don't. I don't really believe that it can be, okay? And I'm not trying to make this up for debate. I'm basing it off of things that I've experienced, especially from somebody who's been in a lifelong experiment and dealt with people that were in positions that I feel, because they probably studied things like critical thinking, have demonstrated to me that they're either evil or they're ignorant. Okay, so this experiment has taught me a lot. But the point is that knowledge is the most important thing. It's important because I believe the hell is created on a spiritual level that has manifested itself on the material plane. Therefore, it's important for me to understand spiritual knowledge, and it's important for me to understand mundane knowledge, meaning knowledge that you would work and use on an everyday level. Like things that you learn in school, like math, you know what I mean? Understanding like certain compass direction points and stuff like that. Okay, science to a certain degree, you know, things like that. Okay, yes, knowledge is important. Okay, in order to navigate through this hell, knowledge is like the most important thing you can have. Now, I continually have to remind people that these views that I have are based on my experience and my life. Okay, so that means that, you know, I want to make it very clear because it seems as though everything, being a target, everything that you do and say is just open for debate when you didn't ask for it to be. Okay, so I'm trying to be as very clear as I possibly can be. Okay, but my unique views come from a very unique experience. So number 3 is, it is my responsibility to comfort, protect, and coddle and love myself before others, and not to expect anything else from anyone. Meaning, you know, I understand that people sell you out in situations like this, okay? And the thing is, it's not that they sold you out, it's the fact that the platform was corrupt in the first place. That means that, you know, it really should come as no surprise that my sister Lisa would stab me in the back. Okay, this was an experiment that was like all the way down was messed up, okay? So, no one, when you're a target, I would say really nobody. When you really look at it, you'd be surprised to find out how very few people truly care about one another. Okay, but in my life, I mean, I've had to witness that. Okay, I have had to witness being a victim of a hate crime. Okay, so the only person that was there to comfort me, the only person there I felt who really protected me, and the reason why the way how I protected myself was to talk about the situation and break it down in steps. I had to prove to that I had nothing to do with this, that this is some shit that, you know, whatever. Okay, but the only person who was really trying to take care of Maria was Maria. Okay. Also, coddle, I do coddle myself. Why? I show myself self-love as much as I possibly can. Okay, if that means taking a bubble bath, if that means getting my nails done, I mean, I don't go to the salon or whatever, but I do it myself. Okay, whatever that means. Okay, if that can make me feel better, then I'm going to do it. Okay, I do not expect anyone to give me any comfort. Okay, because I've only dealt with the demonic. Okay, so, you know, it's a very lonely world. I'm telling you that right now. Okay, and love myself. Okay, and I do love myself more than I love anyone else. There is no one on this earth. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I love my son. Okay, but I'm talking about I only love myself. I'm only living for myself. And some people, nobody can sit there and say, "Oh, Maria, that's arrogant. How could you say that?" Because no one gave a shit about me. Okay, it's that simple. It was designed that way. Okay, so when it comes to self-love, I feel as though that's the most important thing that you can have. Okay, because it's been demonstrated to me several times, okay, in this experiment. And not just me, when I look around the world and hear other people's problems, I can see self-love. Okay, if you don't love yourself, trust me, no one else will. And even if you do love yourself, somebody may not love you. It is the way that it is. Okay, so I understand this. So, you know, if I get a little girly with Hello Kitty things, there's no more 99-cent store. But yeah, I used to go out and get myself like little Hello Kitty nail fill pack because it put a smile on my face. Okay, the only person that's going to put a smile on my face is Maria. Okay, and I well know this. Okay, number 4, and I am on day 2 of recording this. So it's 10:15 a.m. It is July 29th. It's Monday. So I'm back on number 4 when it comes to my core beliefs. Now, this is the second time I'm recording this because before I made a recording and I didn't like it. So, and I also feel as though I kind of veered off the subject, which I am known to do. So let's get on to this. So my view on marriage as a person who has a unique background, okay? Like I said, this is not something that I expect other people to follow or whatever, because if people followed my unique lifestyle and path in life, that would be a problem, okay, if people were doing it just for that reason, okay? Why? Because there are certain things that happened in my life that made it so that I have to have no other choice for my own safety and peace of mind to live the way that I do, okay? I do understand that, in order to have, well, that's not even necessary when I'm thinking about this, okay? Wow, I just got a new insight, okay? So I was thinking about, the purpose of marriage, at least in my mind, when I was growing up and how I viewed marriage, okay? And I was getting ready to say that, of course, we need to populate, the earth. But then I just dinged in my head, it's like, wait, Maria, you're a clone. So, I mean, if you think about it, if, if people wanted to continue to have people here on the earth, okay, they could just clone them if they wanted to, but people would have to raise them, right? So marriage could be used for that, to have their own children by natural birth, and also the adoptive parents do clones, right? Or bring back a family member, from, uh, I guess, the dead, and bring back a clone. Now, I am in no way saying that I am somebody who endorses cloning, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not comfortable with the cloning thing, okay? But I'm just saying, I'm speculating how that would work. Now, because I am somebody who has been targeted my entire life, I am not somebody who is interested in marriage, okay? Why? Because people like me are known to get abused. Why? Because I was put in this program, okay? But my view of marriage when I was a little girl, I would say that the majority of my ideas and thoughts came from things like TV and stories. I had mentioned in one of my videos about looking looking at this like little cartoon and books and stuff, and the little illustrations of like families, right? And it all looks so fun, you know what I mean? Like the little mom was like sitting there at the kitchen table with a rolling pin, tending to her children, making little pies and cakes and stuff. And then if there was a husband, he would come in with his lunch pail, and she'd be at the door and kissing him. And they're all just such a happy little family. And, things like the Brady Bunch, right? Now, some people would say, well, you're not a white person, but no, I'm not white. But I'm saying is my view of family was somewhat influenced, or my ideas and desire of family was somewhat influenced by things that I saw on TV, regardless of their race, okay? Because, most families were portrayed as being happy together, collective, supportive, you know what I mean? So I'm not looking at their race, but I am looking at what the family was supposed to represent. So, I kept thinking, well, you have people that you love, they love you, you do things like have, potato sack races in the backyard, there's just so much love. And when you're feeling down, you got your siblings who are supposed to support you. And then you watch all these different TV shows, and you see commercials, cartoons, all reinforcing the idea that everything is so wonderful in the family. Now, mind you, there were those things like after school specials and stuff like that talked about, the problems in a family, like an alcoholic mother or whatever. Okay, but the whole idea that was put in my head is that families were supposed to be loving. You know what I mean? Or they were, and then anybody that was outside of that loving type, what do you call it, box, okay? I used to think that those were the minority. You know what I mean? And then I started like taking my own little surveys of people, going to their house, noticing the interaction, paying attention to how their relationships are. What is the mother and dad like? What is the relationship, between their other family members? And if aunt was over there visiting their house one day, I would pay attention to how she interacted with all the kids. I was somebody who was an observer all the time about marriage and all of that stuff. Okay, now this is the funny part. No one ever told me when I was growing up that marriage was an institution. Now, there were people who were trying to give me hints about it, because I was somebody who kept thinking this is about a family unit that loves each other until they die. So much so that a lot of people fight to get burial plots together. I'm like, man, this is what families are all about, right? So of course I would want one, right? But I remember talking to people, you know, when I was a teenager, and for some reason, I don't know why. Now I know why. Why was it that adults would come up with me and talk to me about adult conversations, and people felt comfortable? Just like I mentioned, my sister Tanya, who was 10 years, well, supposed to be 10 years and 1 week apart from me, always talked to me about her problems. Why? Because people knew, and they would never tell me or want to confirm it, but they knew that I was old enough in my mind and mature enough in my mind. Even though they knew I was goofy, somehow I was always their sounding board. And they always felt comfortable making me their sounding board. So anyway, I digress. Going back to this issue of marriage, I remember, you know, me talking to someone on my lunch break when I was a teenager. I was working this fast food job. You know, I bounced her. I was getting mobbed out of those too, right? But we were talking, right? And, you know, I was talking about, you know, ideas for the future. And I was talking about, you know, yeah, I want to get married and have children. And I remember the look on my manager's face, like he was like, no, you don't. Like, you don't want to get married. Like he obviously seemed like he was miserable, right? He was miserable being married, right? And I kept thinking, what the hell is his problem? Like, you know, doesn't he want families? Doesn't he want fucking, like, you know, piggy, what do you call it, potato sack raises? Doesn't he want to invite his daughter's friends over and they can all have like a little party? I mean, like, you know, this is the kind of shit I was thinking, right? But as I got older, you know, I realized that most people really were not marriage oriented. And as I was getting older, raising my kid by myself, I myself was not feeling any reason to gravitate towards marriage. Why? Because most of the people that I was interacting with were already, I was older. You know, most people had already either been married and they've been there and they've done that and they're not going to do it again. Okay. And I had got married when I was in my 30s, and mostly it was because I was feeling pressure from, you know, I remember somebody at work was trying to pressure me into getting married, now that I think about it. And I also remember my ex-husband's mother was mentioning marriage, right? And I was like, oh, I didn't, and most people know that I was holding on to my last name. Like I was like, you know, doing everything I could to just continue to be married at work. Why? Because there's something in me that does not feel any sort of connection to anyone else, and it's because of my design of having to feel like I've always been by myself. Like I never really felt like when I was married, that I was married. I've always felt like I was on myself. Like it's mainly because of my unique view of the world, that my need to always take care of myself, and I'm a very specialized person. I am the only person who can take care of myself. And come to find out, he was a perp anyway, right? So when it comes to marriage, you know, this is when this a few years ago. Now I know this is like blows people's mind, right? It should blow people's mind that it was just a few years ago that I realized that marriage was an institution. That it was not about caring about each other. It was not about supporting each other. It wasn't about potato sack raises. It wasn't about baking cookies. It wasn't about, you know, putting bows in your daughter's hair every morning. It was not about that. It was about an institution that a lot of people would probably describe as possible slavery. Okay, now I'm not saying all marriages are like that, okay, but in my situation, they were kind of made like that because I was fixed in a program. Okay, marriage to me is something that does not mesh well with me. Okay, I have always been my own cheerleader. I've always been my best comforter. I have always been my own best friend. Okay, so marriage to me is useless. I would ignore the person that I got married to. I would not be able to serve him food. I would not be able to do anything for him. I am no use to anyone other than me. Now, this is not saying this to be selfish. It's the fact that I have been betrayed by so many people. I do not like people anymore. Okay, aside from that, I refuse to have anyone who's a possible abuser going to dictate anything in my life. Okay, and if he tries, there's going to be a consequence for it. Why? Because I have this natural need to protect myself after years and years and years of abuse. I'm just letting people know. Okay, so marriage for me is not an ideal. Now, if I was somebody who was maybe in my 20s and I was considering marriage and I realized I was also a targeted individual, or just I was considering marriage. Okay, I was at an age where I was considering marriage, meaning I was young enough to continue to have children and be old and young enough to be able to raise those children and know that I have a certain specific time slot, because I'm very specific about raising kids within a certain age limit. Because I remember my mother was older than most of my friends' mother, and I think that that was kind of a problem for me. Okay, so mind you, these views and core beliefs are specific to me because they relate to my situation. Now, because marriage is an institution, an expectation should be fully understood by both parties. Just like, I know that I'm a very quirky person by design. Okay, it's not something that I was taught. This is the stuff that happened when they scraped the DNA off me in that tomb or whatever. Okay, I am who I am. Okay, so I'm also 53 years old, which plays an important role in this. Okay, but let's just say I was in my 20s, at childbearing age and all that other stuff. Okay, so I would expect to continue to be myself. Why? Because the idea, for my idea of marriage, is to be harmonious. I need harmony. Okay, and I am not going to be able to restrict myself, my behaviors, my little quirks, my idiosyncrasies, and retain myself for anybody. It's impossible to do. And if I was put in a situation to do that, I believe this is the sort of stuff that causes the sort of tension, little by little. The little bit of resentment here, the little bit of resentment there, the snide remarks, the fights, these little things, okay, start to build up, and resentment happens, and pretty soon you start tearing each other out, tearing each other's, eyes out, and friction and all this other stuff. Okay, it is easy to exploit someone like me. Okay, I am a targeted individual who's had, what do you call it? Who's had, vicious rumors spread about me. Okay, meaning that I could be with an abusive husband, and because people are so mind controlled, they would support the abuse of the husband and would have I would have myself would have absolutely no resources to go to because of the white supremacy issue that happened. Okay, so in this situation, marriage is dangerous for me, white or black, because I will tell you that black people can also be controlled in this program. Okay, so marriage for me is a no-no. Okay, but if I was to maybe, like I said, if I was at the childbearing age, or if somebody asked me, Maria, what is your opinion on marriage? Okay, and they wanted my advice, I would say, you should have the same sort of expectations on life and the same value system. Okay, and the reason why is because you're teaching your kid to believe in a certain thing, or you're teaching your kid to paving a certain way, or your generation. You may even want children, okay? And that's something that needs to be decided before you even get married. You know what I mean? Instead of somebody luring you in with their cute smile, and then the next thing you know, they're throwing all this stuff on you that you never expected. You know what I mean? It's like there should be some sort of agreed upon vision of that relationship. What are you guys all about? What is your main goal? Okay, that's basically what it should be about. And like I said, all of that information, those things should be squared away before you actually make that decision to get married. Now, I did talk about the job market a while ago, and I personally think that, if a person does have the dream of being married and living comfortably, okay, to live comfortably, you have to have stability. You have to have stability. And how do you get stability? It seems as though you got to work to have stability. And unfortunately, most people, it seems as though the average length or time that they spend on the job is about 2 years. Okay, and I don't know if that's because of the corrupt work environments or whatever, but the work, obviously, in fact, what do you call it, the work resources or being able to find a job is very difficult for a lot of people. Okay, not just targeted individuals. So it's like, okay, do you really want to bring another person into a relationship and have some sort of, how would you build your foundation of your family when everything is so rocky? Is it wise to engage in something where there's no security, like everything could crumble tomorrow? Okay, so I'm just saying, it's like, these are things you got to think about. You know what I mean? I will tell you, it's far easier for me to be miserable on my own than to be miserable with somebody else. Okay? Why? Because now we're blaming each other for being in this situation. Now they're resenting this person for eating the last piece of whatever in the refrigerator. Now it's these sort of things that really, I don't need any more drama in my life. I've already had everyone in my family betray me. I don't need inside pressure. So I'm just saying is these are things that I have to consider as a targeted individual, as somebody who's dealt with this program. And also the main point is all the relationships get infiltrated for a targeted individual. So there would be no marriage partner that is supportive. This person's going to be a perv. End of story. Okay, and by the way, we're still on number 4, but I wanted to go into more about how I view children. So the same thing about how I view marriage and understanding what you're getting into is important when you're considering marriage. The same thing would need to be considered if someone was going to have children, right? But we're focusing this on me, my unique perspective, because I'm me. Okay. So it's hard to share my views without like trying to feel like I'm trying to teach without, I want to make it very clear that these are not expectations that I place on other people. Okay. So because of me being 53 years old, looking back on my life, okay, have I been able to do things differently? I probably would have, okay? But I'm very grateful that I did have a child. Now, mind you, I did have a child out of wedlock, okay? But, I would say that my son gave me the incentive to keep going, all right? When it comes to, if I was knowledgeable, if I knew about how the world really operated as a young person, okay, I would have just kept on, traveling mainly because, it's like, I don't ever want anyone to suffer or anything like that or cause problems. And I do think, maybe I might have, I didn't realize how wicked the world was. Oh, let's just put it that way. Okay. So, but now let's just say if I was of the age to have children, I would consider that the reality of how life is really here on earth, okay? But I think that the only people, I wouldn't have kids, you know why? Even if I was at the childbearing age, because I'm going to keep directing this towards me, okay? Because this is the reason why I'm being targeted or was targeted, is because people are always accusing me of like maybe, bucking the system when I am basically being abused by the system, and I do legally have the right to protect myself, okay? So why I wouldn't have children at even if I was at childbearing age now, knowing what I know now, is because I don't see the point in doing that. Okay, mainly because, the thing relating to the job market and all this other stuff, okay? But and the only reason why I would have kids if I was in the childbearing age, if I knew for 100% sure that I could financially support them. Okay, now me being a targeted individual, and I'm talking about being able to financially support them, because the goal for me, this is my view, okay, the goal of having children, okay, is of course to continue building your family structure, and there should be some sort of improvement within that family structure. So let's just say, for example, like my dad grew up working in the field crops, and he did all these kind of odd jobs. He basically supported his family a lot of times, okay? So the idea is, his dream was that his kids would not have to suffer the same thing. So let's just say, for example, I suffered a lot when I was growing up. You can only hope that your child does not do the same thing. And you hope that your child is an upgrade of what you are. Okay? So, like, for example, uh, if I felt I missed out on certain things in life, like I was never able to go to the prom. If I had a daughter, I would want her to go to the prom. Now, I would not force her to go to the prom, but because I missed out, I would be happy for her that she would get to do something that I never got a chance to do. It's an upgrade. You see what I'm saying? Seeing that her life is an improvement. There's some beauty in that. You know what I mean? Like, because if you love your kid. Now, of course, I'm the kind of person, my race loves, okay? It's not about, using people as commodities or anything like that. It's more like I love, and I'm not saying my race because I know there's been some people who of my race who just outright cutthroat, right? But I don't use and abuse people that I love. So to have a child, from my perspective, okay, it would be me hoping that that child would be better off and have the things that I never was able to have, okay? And also, but in order to have children, okay, then everything I would have to have all my ducks in a row, and I would have to be able to what build financial stability, because I will tell you that I would not want my child to have to worry about the job market, the abuses of the job market, and unfortunately, people such as myself are not able to become independently wealthy. Okay, so therefore, it would not be a good idea for me to have children or people who are in my situation to have children. Okay, because you can't build. There's no really true building of anything. So therefore, why have children? But let's just say, for example, we lived in La La Land and people weren't all in my business and I could do things, right? I would have it so that I would raise my kid, and I would also have to think about let's just say, for example, I was no, how can I say this? Okay, remove me from the thing, okay? Because when you think about having children, I now know as a 53-year-old woman that not all children are born from the womb, or some are created in incubators, some are adopted. We have this issue of people, whatever, okay? So that you could basically custom make your kid, you know what I mean? If that's your choice, I'm just now I'm projecting it to the outside. Okay, if you were going to have your kid, because I'm not having any kids, but I'm just saying is I'm speculating and like and playing it. Like what would these making different scenarios in my mind. Okay, um, I'm just saying is there's too many kids that get abused. Okay, and if you're the kind of person that loves kids, then I think that you'd probably be a good parent. Okay. It's not that I don't think kids are cute. It's just that I'm too old and I honestly don't have the energy to raise children. And I also I think about my life expectancy. I'm 53 already. Okay. And I don't know if I'm really that immortal, or I'm going to die at 95, or I'm going to die at 69. I don't know when I'm going to die. Okay. But the point is, like, at this point in my life, I feel as though I'm too old to have children, because by the time the child's 20, I'm going to be 73. Okay, so I would be, I don't know. I would be facing all kinds of health problems and everything else at that time. So I don't really, or expect to, and whether that be me slowing down, not being able to feel energetic, you never know. So I don't think that would be a good idea for me. But, what was I going to say? I was going to talk about cloning, but see, I would never have anyone cloned. Okay, I would never, I would not support that. Okay, so I'm not, that's something I wouldn't even do. Same thing, whether I would have a child naturally or I would be interested in adoption. The only thing is that it would be a bad idea for someone like me, because I could never ever have like future wealth or anything like that to create wealth and do that. So I don't see the point in doing that. All right, so let's see. The first thing I do think though, if I did have a child, okay, is I think the first thing that I would teach them are morals. Morals, and that would be taught through like teaching them the evils of the world. Okay, teaching them how to my same moral about being not harming other people. I don't believe in like I live and let live. I respect that, and I would teach my child to respect human life. Okay, and I would also make him understand or her understand that there are certain things that you can do to cause harm to other people. So this will be one of the first life lessons that they would need to know, because I think that's important, because I think it's too late to try to formulate a person into having any sort of morals or decent character if they get too late, if it's too late. And see, the purpose of like certain things like what do you call it, some childhood stories, some fairy tales are like that. They were created to warn kids of the dangers. Okay, think about things like Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, there's a lot of people using things. They speak figuratively. Okay, a lot in the fairy tale, but basically it's warning kids of the dangers of predators, people that prey on kids. You know what I mean? the dangers of meeting strangers and that sort of stuff. So they need to understand that. And you can talk to them about this. You know, I'm talking about myself. I would talk to them, okay? I would talk to them about, you know, the dangers of meeting people that you don't know, and then through storytelling, and then I would follow up and tell them real stories, because that's exactly what my dad used to do, right? And I think it worked. All right, and it did make me, it intrigued me. Okay, so I would, you know, definitely, and I did that with my son as well. Like, that's how I taught my son lessons, you know what I mean, through storytelling, and then following up and telling them stories about things that happened in my life, or maybe one of my relatives' life, or somebody I used to know, or whatever. You know, I tell him the fables, and then I tell him the real stuff, okay? And then also, I think it's important when it comes to the moral issues is to teach them those laws. Laws are important, right? So I believe that if anybody's going to have children, really, okay, they're responsible for their conduct of their children. That's why if your kid gets in trouble at school, guess who they're going to call? They're going to call the parent. That kid's your responsibility until they're 18 years old. So in my situation, what I would do is, you know, and I've always done this anyway, and I've always taught morals, okay, through stories, explanations, and then following up with something real. And it is my responsibility to make sure that my kid would have a good building of character. That is the responsibility of the parent. And if, of course, since I know that I'm not somebody who is at this time in my life, getting older, not energetic enough to run after that toddler that has all the energy in the world, I know not to have children, okay? But they are a responsibility, and I understand that there's a lot of kids that don't understand right from wrong, and it's because there is no instructions. And I believe that the instructions are important from the very get-go. As soon as a child is able to speak, they are able to, when they're able to communicate, this is when the lessons get taught. Okay, and then also I was thinking, you know, the moral lessons is for people to at least teach compassion. You know, well, at least me. Okay, I believe in teaching compassion. I teach compassion. Okay, because I talk about hardships, about people who've struggled, people who've gone without food, people who've had to live out in the streets, people who've, you know, I remember telling my son about the stories that my father had to go through when he was a kid, and so on, those sorts of things. So, and I also think it's important, you know, if a kid does something and damages something that belongs to somebody else, and hopefully, you know, well, thank goodness that never happened, okay, but let's just say, for example, I had a child and they damaged something that belonged to someone else, okay, they need to understand the hardship that they caused to that person. Okay, and like I said, some kids, like we can already tell, like in this situation through this experiment, not everybody has sympathy or empathy or even have an understanding of what they do is wrong. Okay, but the thing is that the whole goal is that I believe, and I'm going to talk about this and my standards of conduct, that if you damage something, you have to understand the hardship. It's important to understand the hardship that you caused that person. That's one of the reasons why it's your responsibility to replace it. Okay, so then I, in case, would replace that broken window or whatever, but the child needs to understand and he needs to learn the lesson, okay, that he caused someone suffering. And in case, and also, he also needs to understand the legalities of it, like what happens when people do things to other people's property in real life. You know, so he needs to understand that he should have respect for what belongs to other people, and he should also be aware that going forward there are consequences. Like if he's going to sit here and grow up to be like a juvenile delinquent, right? Like, or he or she is going to grow up to be a juvenile delinquent. They need to understand there's things called juvenile hall. Okay, there's also things called, you know, the jail system. Okay, and they need to understand just how hard it is. Now, I understand not everybody is born with compassion. That's why I think it's really important about who people get married to, because it could either be the reason why they lack empathy could be genetic, and it could also be the fact that they're exposed to somebody who might be a narcissist. You know what I mean? That's another thing that, you know, but that should all be smoothed out before people even actually decided to get married in the first place. I mean, this could go long and long, and then go on and on about this, okay? But my thing is that the problem is like I'm focusing a lot on morality and the fact that, you know, society lacks it, and because I'm disgusted and I disdain the lax behavior that people have for even showing the most simplest form of any sort of respect or any sort of manners or morals whatsoever, that I think that it's important, you know, especially when you're raising children, knowing that this child is supposed to, you know, be the next generation or whatever, you know, it's important that they have some sense of responsibility of being a moral person. Now, it would be my responsibility as a parent to teach them those morals. It's up to that child whether it's going to catch or not. And if that child ends up being like a sociopath or something like that, that's something you have to deal with and understand how that works. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying is, to me, having a kid is a huge responsibility. It's a huge, because you never know what you're going to get unless, of course, here comes the cloning thing, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about cloning. I am never going to ever clone anybody, okay? And I am obviously not gung-ho about the thing, okay? But I'm going to go back and touch on the subject of the New Earth thing, okay? Because I was thinking, in order to have a perfect world, okay, you would have to remove that in their brain, or somehow ever that works, for a person to prevent a person from doing wrong. But then also, you'd have to create an environment where everybody's needs are met. You know what I mean? And so I remember the stories of, you know, the whole speculation of what Jehovah's Witnesses were talking about, the new heaven, the new earth. The new earth was supposed to be devoid of people having to have jobs. Okay, now it would be like everybody gets their little land and they can grow their own food. Now, I've always wanted to do that, right? Just kind of grow your own food, do your own thing. Apparently, you don't pay anything. Like, everything's free, just like it's free flowing in heaven. It's supposed to be free flowing on earth. I don't know if that's going to happen here, okay? But that doesn't mean that laws cannot be. They're already created. That doesn't mean that laws cannot be implemented to have things improved, okay? On things like crime, and, you know, where lawmakers can make things a little bit better to buffer some of the impact of what hell does to people. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right. So, and I don't know anything about all that, but I like the workings of all that. I stay out of the political route right now, mainly because, like, I think I must have had some sort of past life trauma of the whole issue, and I talked about that yesterday when I was making some of the earlier slides. But yeah, I think the responsibility as an adult, understanding the responsibility of raising children, which are getting into how important it is, you know, can you support kids? Are you guaranteed to not have any problems? Like, I think about the times, like all the times I've been out of work, you know, being mom better jobs and stuff like that. Someone like me has no business having children, raising, getting married, having children, having a family, especially if I was a man, okay, who felt that that responsibility was on them. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? No, these are the things they need to think about. And so I think a lot of people are, you know, themselves, I do see a lot of people talking about them choosing not to get married, you know, and they all have their different reasons. I don't know if it's just some sort of trend or something, but I think if, you know, if I was financially stable and knew good and well that there was nothing that could actually hurt me and harm me, where I could build my resources to where I was solid, that would be the only way I would even think about, you know, bringing in more kids. You know what I mean? And, you know, and I couldn't do it anyway, but I'm just saying is those are the things that I would think about when I would consider having kids. Okay, so I think I've rambled on about this subject long enough, and I'm going to go on to my to the next subject. Okay, number 5, and this is pretty much, there's not a whole lot to my core beliefs, okay, because I would say that I'm pretty laid back for the most part, okay? Like, I don't create rifts where there shouldn't be any. So I don't have a lot of core beliefs, meaning, like, you know, I pretty much stroll, like, go about my daily business, okay? But number 5 is I believe everyone on earth is here for their own divine purpose, some big and some small. And I'm going to reference my not my core belief, but my standard of conduct, number 13 on my standard of conduct. I'll cover that because it kind of ties in. You know, I don't like to obstruct. I don't believe in obstructing or causing pain to anybody, or trying to move people off of their divine mission. Okay, there are certain people that they would deserve. Okay, like of all the pain that people have caused my father, of all the pain that people have caused me, there's reason I believe that on a certain level, on a spiritual level, I have every right to torture these people till the day that they die. I have every right to, okay, and have no mercy and feel no mercy whatsoever, okay. But you know what? I want to get on with my life, okay. And whatever happens, and if these people have offended something within like the spiritual force, and these people ended up getting their karma, that's not my problem. But one thing is for sure, I do not go around causing trouble for other people because I understand that everybody is here for their divine purpose. So therefore, I don't. You will never see me sitting here trying to down talk somebody, like causing unnecessary problems with people. Okay, because they're here. I understand. I may not like a specific person. Okay, but I understand that they too have a reason to be here. They have a reason to be here. Okay, and it's not for me to interfere with. Okay, that means that I do not believe in harming other people. Okay, unless of course they walked into some sort of karma trap and they did something stupid. Like in this whole case, this whole thing about persecuting me, the whole religious thing, people set themselves up for this. Okay, and don't think that for one second that being deceived by something is going to get people off the hook. Like, oh, it's okay for me to say, well, I was deceived. Okay, people were deceived because they wanted to. Okay, they accepted that because something in their heart allowed them to. There was something very wicked in their heart to do that. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. I'm going to talk about my standards of conduct. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my standard of conduct, but I thought it was important to talk about autonomy. I would say that autonomy is a core belief of mine, and it is also a standard of conduct. When it comes to the core belief, I understand anytime I enter any sort of group dynamic, whether that be, I'm going to first of all say that I have cut off all ties with the people that I used to know for obvious reasons, okay? I have to reemerge on my own because I was dealing with something that was relating to mind control, and I was dealing with a cult. They were a part of a death cult that was, we all know the story. Okay, my core belief is that, personally, not just for me. Okay, this is when I'm going to speak for myself, and then also what I've observed throughout this experiment, and not just the experiment when I actually started experiencing this stuff through Mary Family Farms. I'm talking about as long as I can remember since I started observing people. Okay, I've never really seen people support other people. Okay, unless of course they had some sort of interest in it, like maybe they were exploiting someone for financial gain or whatever. So I know how alone people really are. And in my case, I'm even more alone than most people. Why? Because I was placed in a program, a very abusive program, okay? So when it comes to, how I function, how I move, the decisions that I make, I do everything autonomously, okay? I am very special because of my situation, okay? So anything that I have developed my beliefs because of my solitary journey that I was on by design. Okay, I never had a true support system. I had a fake family. I had people that were my so-called friends were people who were. It was always a setup. Okay, so throughout my life, the only person who comforted me, the only person who understood me was myself. Now, I've seen people, like, for example, get into group dynamics, and this is like my observation. I'm removing myself from the situation and talking about things that I've observed. Okay, I've seen groups work with a person who came out with a design. Okay, and maybe some people they pledge their support, but if they set up a certain time to meet, the people who want to participate might flake. They don't show up. They're not showing as much drive and much ambition towards this person's original idea. The reason why is because they can't. It's not theirs personally. You know what I mean? Even if they do get something out of it, they want to put in as little as possible and hope to get something out of it. Okay. So I understand, how abusive how abusive life is. Okay. Even more so because I'm a targeted individual. So autonomy is a core belief of mine, meaning like, I can't expect someone to run to my aid when they fucked me over. In this case, I will say a lot of the people who messed me over basically just left me for dead. Okay. Now I know that I feel like there's a different energy that's kind of shifted, but I don't know if they actually were forced to correct the problem, or did they do some other goodness on their part? Because if they did correct the problem, it's not because they did it because they felt empathy or whatever. It's because they felt like they had to save face. Okay? I understand the only person who really cares about Maria is Maria. Okay, so it's more than just a core belief. It also trickles down to my standard of conduct. Okay. Now, when I enter a room, like, I do pretty much everything alone. Now, in the beginning, after I left Maria Family Farms place, and there's been times that I mentioned before where all of a sudden I'm the most popular person in the world. I cannot stop getting texts. I cannot stop getting phone calls. These are these little cycles that went throughout my life so that people could get information, and then they would report back, and then they'd go back to their gossip and plotting and all this other stuff. Okay. My standard of conduct plays a lot into me being autonomous, because now at this point in my life, I understand that when I interact with people, they always got a trick up their sleeve. It's always about whatever. So, of course, it's going to come into play when it comes to my standard of conduct. I always have to be alert when I deal with people, because I was dealing with a system that was built on, we know it was abuse, we know the originators of it. When I say the originators, I'm talking about the demonic influence that infiltrated. This is one of the reasons why, I had mentioned before that, people will start trying to do things to try to get at you. I mean, and say things and be a nightmare towards me. Okay. Just because. So my interactions with people is going to come into play. All right. So, and I'm aware of this. So let me go into some of my standards of conduct as Maria Gordon, right? And I'll do that in the next slide. Okay, now I'm going to go into the standards of conduct. And I was going to number these, and actually I did number them, but when I transferred them like from Word to PowerPoint, it didn't list the number. And I'm not going to mess with it, okay? Because, this to me is not something that I think is that important. And actually, when I think about how I originally thought about designing this particular project, I was going to do it a little differently. But then I get thinking, I don't really want to waste a whole lot of time on this. The main point is it's important for people to understand that no, I'm not a threat to my country, okay? But I'm trying to give people also an idea on how it is that my brain works and how I function. And the reason why, I think what some people are always wondering and curious about is like, how in the world is Maria so set in her ways? And why I'm so set in my ways is because I have no other choice. Okay. And once I make up my mind about certain things, I'm somebody who thinks things through. Okay. And it's going to filter down through everything that I do, think, say, and do. Right. So I wanted to share, my views, because I know that obviously I was targeted by some pretty important people, and they thought that I was somebody who was trying to buck the system. No, I'm not trying to be a rebellious person, but I will say that the operation that was going on against me is unusual. Okay, when you look at it from a legal standpoint, no offense, but you guys are in the wrong. So, and I understand, I'm just trying to clear my name because I think this has gone on too long. And before I start building up any more resentment, it's important that I clear the air. Meaning, like, this is, to me, it's like one of the most shocking things that needed to happen for me to make my final decision. You know what I mean? And I think that, it's important that people understand what happened to me, as well as I needed closure, and I'm the only person who's going to give me that closure. That just goes, that tells you everything right there. I'm the only person who's patting myself on the back, consoling me. Okay, so that tells a lot about the program that I'm in. All right, or was in. Anyway, okay, so my first standard of conduct, throughout my experience, I have always been polite to my enemies, okay? Like, I knew a lot of times that I was walking into different jobs knowing that these people were set up to cause me problems. knowing that these people were trying to tear down my character, knowing I was no way ever going to be liked or accepted within this group. Okay, so this is something I had communicated a lot when I was within this cycle of going into job interviews and starting jobs and all this other stuff. Okay, and letting people know that it was wrong. Okay, and I do remember, having to interact with people that I felt were off, twisted, and a great representation of the demonic forces that originated this plan. Okay, this is one of the reasons why I hate looking for jobs, because this operation was twisted from the get-go. Now, even though I know that it was twisted, I was always polite, meaning, I conducted myself in a manner that was beyond reproach. My goal was to be blameless in this entire situation. So and I do this in all my interactions, whether I'm at work, going to the store, talking to a neighbor, whatever. Okay, why? Because I'm doing everything I can to avoid demonic. I call it demonic spite. Okay, I will tell you what the average person is who absorbs this sort of twisted type morals, this sort of behavior where they don't know right from wrong. Because, like I said, we live in an environment. Unfortunately, things are. This system has been. When I say the system, I'm going to say the entire world has been operating under a demonic influence for a very long time, and it's seen in the people. Now you'll see it even more if you're a targeted individual. You'll see the smirks on their face. It's like almost like you can just see the demons wanting to come out of them. I showed a picture of the mischievous smile, the emoji, right? The emoji, those little smiling faces that people use in order to convey a message on how they're feeling or trying to whatever. Anyway, that look, that face, okay, is something that you see a lot when you're a targeted individual. It's like these people are always thinking of ways to try to mess with you because they have demonic problems. They are literally infested with demons. So I knew, being a targeted individual, that I was not interested in causing any fights. I just needed to have money to make a job. And it wasn't at this point when I realized I was well within the system. I knew that it was impossible for me to be able to fit in and get along and deal with whatever. My job was no longer something that I felt like a passion for. Because, when I was younger, I felt a different way about my work ethic. It was like, I felt as though this is where, you release your creativity. This is what you do. You get into your job, right? But then I started realizing, oh, this is just some setup. It's always like some sick, twisted setup that I hated. So anyway, going back to my comment, my standard of conduct. Okay, because I'm sitting here like, going on and on, ranting about how pissed off I really am. But anyway, but I do take notes of, people's rude comments, and I address them immediately. Like, I know when I was working over at, I'm not going to say which place, okay, but there was a few times where I've had people try to provoke me, and they want you to hit them. That old lady that was wanting me to try to provoke me, I should have hit her, really. I mean, but I know that they wanted to have me penalized. This is how demonic this shit is. They know they're in the wrong, and you know why they makes them feel like they're right? Because of their spiritual belief, their spiritual alignment with the demiurge. This is one of the reasons why they became so full on demonic. Okay, this is why they behave the way that they do. Okay, this is why you see these smirky faces. Meanwhile, I have to keep my composure. Okay, but when I deal with these sort of interactions, I address them quickly. Okay, if I sense that somebody's acting in a way that I can tell that they don't really like me, I basically just come. This is a work issue. So I just basically say, hey, look, I understand that you have an issue with me, okay? But for the sake of, harmony, let's just work and, don't interact with me unless, of course, it has something to do with work, okay? And ask them, hey, you know what? Is that all right? Unless, of course, your goal is to get me fired. At this point in the game, and this is how I will continue to live my life, if I see anything, any sort of BS, I'm going to address it. I'm always going to address it. Right? And the reason why I'm going to address it because this gives me the opportunity to hold other people accountable, and it's also showing that, hey, I'm not going to be in the wrong. Okay, I'm always going to shut it down, but at the same time, I'm always going to be polite. Now, there's a lot of things that I have changed since I had realized that I was in the heart of the program. There's certain things that I don't do anymore. Like I grew up, addressing people as Mr., Mrs., Sir, ma'am, and there's sometimes I do slip up. I will never address someone that way ever again. I am never going to say sir to anyone ever again. Why? Because I've never met anyone who's deserved that. Okay, but I will be polite. Good morning. How are you? And I don't even think it's really my job to even ask somebody how are you. So if I say that, I'm just being extra polite that day. That's charity. When I talk it up to charity at this point, okay. But I keep the conversation going and I mirror it, meaning like if I have to deal with somebody because I know they play that I'm going to ignore Maria bullshit game at work, okay. Then they'll come in and they'll say hi to everybody. They do this shit all the time. Oh, hi, so-and-so, hi, so-and-so. We'll say nothing to you. They do this on purpose, right? Because, their ultimate goal as a cult, a death cult, is for you to kill yourself, right? So you don't matter. You don't matter in their little game with the demiurge game, right? So, okay, fine, all right? So I don't say anything to them. The only time that I do interact with them is if I have to do something that involves their participation when it comes to work. So I say, hey, do you have this particular file? Thank you. I always say thank you. Okay. I don't put myself in situations any more than I have to. Meaning, I don't sit here and like, oh, if I see people going to, oh, can I go along with you or whatever? Believe me, I don't ever go to lunch with people, ever. I don't deal with that interaction. Okay. My lunchtime is my lunchtime. I do not interact with people. We're done. Okay. Especially after all the years that I've had to deal with it. And their games and their plots and their setups and their demiurge poking all this bullshit, no more. So the only thing that people get out of me is being polite. That's all that's left. Okay? But I will say, whatever social interactions I do deal with, I'm never at fault. I will always be blameless. Oh, there's something else I wanted to cover on this issue. Oh, that's it. You know what I mean? But I do believe in if somebody comes up against me and they do so in a way where I can tell they're going to try to provoke me, I'm not going to let myself ever lose control, but I'm going to call them out on it every single time. Okay, and people know this. Okay, and when I have called people out on it, I do see them shake, I do see them shiver, and I'm not doing this to intimidate them. I just have the right to move forward. I have the right to work in an environment without being harassed. I have the right to live. Okay. And I don't respect people who sit here and align themselves with the demiurge and then get in my face. It just doesn't work. Okay, moving right along. Okay, I don't let others disrespect me without a consequence. Now, obviously, this has been going on for years and years and years and years and years and years, okay? And I understand that the people that were involved have corruptly been able to manipulate like the legal system, right? Which was wrong, all right. But I deserved compensation, right? And unfortunately, I deserve to be compensated through the legal system, and I'm not getting the compensation that I deserve. I, at 53 years old, have to sit here and figure out what I'm going to do after somebody who was filled with demons decided to plow through my life, right? But, the thing is, there's sometimes you cannot get, the kind of justice that you deserve. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my justice through the legal system, which I would have racked in the dough, okay? And I'm never going to be able to confront these people because I wouldn't have any conversation with these people. They're never going to be invited to my house or anything like that. So the only thing I can do is, of course, take it to a matter of prayer, my connection with deity, and hope that they get what they deserve. Okay, but I will say that I do pray over my life, and I do ask for protection. Now, I do hold offenders accountable, and I walk away. Like I just gave an example. My first example. I don't ever want to resort to violence, and I don't resort to violence. Okay, because I understand when you're dealing with people, this is a group dynamic that was against me, who wanted to prove a point to bully me into suicide or to be institutionalized. This is one of the topics that I had covered in one of my videos about gang stalking. Okay, and like I give an example about people who protested the reset. They were put in mental institutions, and in 1956 well, I could have been put in there like years before. I don't know how long I was in a mental institution, but I died in 1956 as C.B. Braganza, right? Um, I was institutionalized, and I have never been insane. Now, I'm an eccentric person, but I've never been insane. Okay, some people might think, my goodness, the reason why you're so strong, and most people would have broken by now, and the reason why they think, oh, she must be crazy in order to reject, being abused by celebrities. That was my option: be abused by celebrities, be disrespected, let people talk shit about my father, let people make racist jokes about me and my father, and I'm supposed to grin up there and grin and take it and be their best friend. Fuck no. Okay. So this is what people think. They think, oh, she has, she's being around celebrities and she could whatever. And they might think it's okay for people to disrespect them and be okay with that. Maybe your standards are that low, but mine aren't. Okay. So I do hold the offenders accountable, especially the ones, for example, who were in my workplace. Okay. And if I confronted them after they've done something, I have to. Why? Because, and I do so in a way that is ethical and moral. Okay, meaning I'm not causing any problems. I'm just addressing it, which any adult should do. Okay, but I'm also letting them know, you know what? I deserve to have my job. I deserve to work in an environment where I don't have to deal with your crap, and let's not have any for future issues, unless of course, you're trying to get me fired. Always talk about what they're trying to do. I'm bringing out the reason why is because you're holding them accountable. Letting them know that you know what they're up to, you understand what the end result is, and you're letting them know and you're verbalizing it. If this is what you're trying to do, are you trying to do that? Put them on blast. Okay, that's how I handle it as a targeted individual. Okay, any further outbursts proves their wickedness. Meaning, like if once I tell them to knock it off, why they should be knocking it off, and they continue doing it, then they're responsible, and it proves my point, right? So this is how I handle things, and this is how I operate, and this is how I move, part of my standard of conduct. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the topic of forgiveness. And yes, this does have a lot to do with your standard of conduct. It's not just a belief. To me, it's a standard of conduct. Because when you have an issue with a person, okay, there's tension there. If somebody's doing something that's harming you and you're aware of it, there's going to be tension there, okay? And you have to decide whether or not you can forgive that person. Now, everyone knows that I was involved in this huge drama that originated through a mind control program, which involved, brainwashing of various kinds, okay, and of a lot of different people, okay. You have to, when it comes to forgiveness, forgiveness is, to me, is on an individual basis, okay. Now, there's sometimes people do minor offenses to you, thoughtless things, okay? Thoughtless things like they might accidentally get your mail, okay? Because we live in an apartment complex where everybody's mail is connected, right? They might accidentally get a piece of my mail, and when they brought the mail inside their house, they might have forgot about it and left it on their cabinet for months and 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 months at a time. Can I forgive something like that? I'm going to say yes, because it's a thoughtless thing. It's thoughtless. It's like they weren't really putting any thought into it, okay? But things like this, where there's a cold, calculated program involved, where somebody literally was leading you to this slaughter, and you look and examine the pathology of that particular individual who initiated that, and you realize the foundation and the originator of that whole thing, okay, then you have to decide whether you choose to forgive, and if you're right to, and you should not feel pressured one way or the other, okay. It should be fully respected when you put this whole thing into perspective, okay. So when it comes to forgiveness, for me, it is an option, okay. Now, I wrote this down in my journal, so I'm going to read a little bit. Okay, forgiveness is an option. There are different ways to move on, and that's true. Now, some people think, I remember when this one girl at work, okay, she would do things that to me were not in my favor, and trying to cast me in a negative light, which she had no right to, and she was wrong on top of it, okay. But still, I remember I caught her red-handed doing some BS, right? And you know what she said? You have to forgive. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to forgive that. Okay, and some people think that what she wanted me to do is to forget her transgression and act as if nothing ever happened and continued being in the same sort of relationship that we had before. That's ridiculous. Especially when you do something that's going to affect a person's reputation, especially when you do something that's going to affect a person's finances and their long-term well-off being. Okay, so no, I do not forgive a person. So for some, you have to weigh, your level of forgiveness. Okay, now my forgiveness was most of the time is just walking away and moving on and cutting that person out of my life. Okay, like I said, the neighbor who accidentally got my mail and because they got busy with their everyday work, okay, and forgot to give me my piece of mail, it just accumulated with the rest of their household stuff and they forgot about it. That's forgivable because it's not something that they thought about, okay? But you have people who sit here and are planning your demise, systematically thinking about it, having conversations online about it, talking about you, destroying your reputation, and then setting you up for all kinds of issues and dramas in the workplace. I have no reason to forgive that. That's just like setting a gun to my head. So no, I do not. Now, I also wrote, the goal is to move on, so when you think of the issue, you do so without detachment. That is not forgiving the person to where you're just forgetting what they did. But what it is like when you can recall the situation and not be triggered. When you can recall the situation of what they did to you that harmed your life, that put you in a situation that disturbed you greatly. Can you think about that issue without being emotional? Okay, when you think about the people causing you problems, do you still ball up your fist and bite your bottom lip like you want to punch somebody? When those feelings subside, it's not that you're thinking it's okay what this person did, but that's more of, to me, you're forgetting and you're forgiving, and that way it's balanced and you moved on. But at the same time, justice needs to be served. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why it makes it very difficult for a lot of people to forgive. Okay, so anyway, let me continue with what I wrote. For those that offend me, it gives me a better understanding of what kind of person not to gravitate towards. Okay, do I want a repeat of the people that I knew? No. Would I have them as friends? No. If I could choose them as my own, if I could build my own family, like literally build your own family, okay, the kind of people that you'd want in your family, and the kind of people that you want to make future plans with and enjoyment with, no. Okay, so what kind of person like that belongs anywhere in my life? They don't. They don't. So the only thing I can do is be polite. And when it comes to forgiveness, the answer is no, I don't forgive. Okay, but I need to remove certain things from my vision in order to move on. Something like what happened to me, yeah, it is. So when I continue reading on my writing, okay, it says, if an offense is too much to forgive, let the killing off of that person begin. Now, that is not me physically killing them, even though apparently in this situation, there's a lot of the people that I knew who ended up dead. Okay, but that was their own problem, and they brought that on themselves by the nature of this issue. Okay, but the killing off means you're dead to me. That means if I see you in town, you do not make eye contact with me, you do not say hello to me, you have nothing to say to me. Do you understand? Because I understand some of these people are watching this video. Okay, you can't give me the years that you took from me. Okay, and I'm dead serious. Okay, I don't expect to sit here and attack you, and I also don't expect you to acknowledge me, and I will not acknowledge you in the public. You are dead to me. Okay? For my own mental well-being, that's the best way the best way to go. And at this point, the only person I have to think about is myself, because God knows no one else did. Okay, now this goes back into being blameless in my standard of conduct. I was watching some videos, I don't know, maybe like about 3 weeks ago, And you know, some of these are like intuitive messages, and I know that a lot of people talk about me online, and sometimes it almost becomes like almost like so obvious that they're talking to me about me. But they were talking about how different I am, and they were saying that, you know, the people that were against me were feeling that they believe that I don't like to do the same things that other people like to do, and that's not necessarily true. Like, you know, I like cooking sometimes. Okay. Um, what else? Okay, I do. I guess maybe my little arts and crafts are quirky, but you know what? If they were looked upon as that bad, okay, Michaels and stuff like that wouldn't be existing. People do arts and crafts. You'll see arts and crafts sections in department stores. People like putting things together. So I do like arts and crafts, but like we're basically saying that I don't like to do what other people do, as in social type activities that harm other people. This is what I picked up and perceived what this person was kind of saying, okay? Because people do normalize it. They normalize the, what do you call it, canceling people. They normalize the gossip, the trend. In this case, I believe that this whole thing about me was played out in the open by some of the powerful people that I'm not going to reference in this video, but this is a big public issue, so a lot of people know it. I don't want to go too deeply into that, okay, because everybody knows who I'm talking about. But I am blameless in this situation. But I do not harm others, okay? Like, I don't believe in just because somebody believes something else that I don't believe in, I'm going to harm them, okay? Because, well, obviously, it doesn't make any sense to. All right, I'm very confident and comfortable in the way that I believe, and I don't need to force that on other people. The operation that was going on shocked me because of, you know, me understanding and believing in things like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Okay, so I guess I recognize everyone's right to live. You know, I don't know. But anyway, um, I wrote down some notes here, so let me go ahead and read this. By acknowledging that we live in hell, I know everyone has a rough journey. Therefore, I will not be responsible for adding to the misery of another person. This is true, okay? And I do so in very small ways. Just like this guy was talking about, I don't like doing things that other people do. I think what he was referring to mainly was the gossip campaigns that everybody gets into. You know how people group together and they talk about this one particular person. I don't do that, okay? I don't sit here and try to cancel other people. I don't try to bully other people. And people have normalized gang stalking behavior. And they know that I would never, knowing what this stuff is and what it does, I would never do something like that. That goes in line with me harming other people. I know what it's like to struggle. I have struggled my entire life, okay? And I would never do that to another human being. I would never, okay? But in this way, in him acknowledging that, I took it like, yeah, because people do minimize this issue. They minimize the issue. This is how it took off so fast. And also, it was because it was influenced and encouraged by people who have positions of power, which makes it even more shocking. Because I would think people in positions of power would know the law. Okay, so the fact that they did against the law makes people, you know, have that kind of side eyeball thing going. Anyway, um, what else? Okay. Oh yeah, gossip and slander. Okay. Yeah, I do believe that. Let me just read this really quick. This is a lesson, along with gratitude, that I believe children should be taught early on in the development stage. Respect the property of others and do not cause any hardship to anyone. If you do, you are in debt to pay it back. Reference the court system. Oh yeah, reference the court system when someone gets dealt with an injustice. Okay, so like when it comes to teaching people lessons on, you know, moral lessons on hurting people or whatever, you know, do let them understand that there's consequences of the damage that you cause to that person, even by things like gossiping. Okay, now I've had to live under somebody's word, somebody's lie, my entire life. Okay, I've been mistreated and abused because of some demiurge plan my entire life. I know what gossip does. I know what slander does. I know it is not something that should be taken lightly. And this is one of the reasons why I do not gossip, and you will not get me to gossip either. Because I understand what it does to a person. Okay, so when I look at these people and I think about, when it comes to like teaching kids, that would be another lesson that I would teach my kid about, gossiping about people and the damage that it causes, because that is one of my beliefs, is not to hurt people. Okay, and I think about the ways that can hurt a person. That's a way that can hurt a person. Okay, just by what people believe about you when you enter the room, something that I could have never changed or avoided. I had no idea people were associating me, trying to flip the script. Okay, getting assistance from demons and then calling me a demon. I don't think so. Okay, but this is what I had to live under for my entire life. Okay, I do not participate in those things, and I will never allow myself to do that to another person, ever. Okay, I do not harm others. Lisa, is there anything else I wanted to? Oh yeah, reference the court system. The reason why I talk about referencing the court system, and I did make a video, and I'm going to be posting my videos little by little, okay? But I did make a video. I think it's called "Hope for the Discontented." Yeah, that's what it's called. Okay, and it was on my defunct Swan Song Manifesto channels. Okay, but really, what I was addressing was the issue of the court system. Is because we all know that the court system, when something becomes a law, it is because something has already happened, or someone has cleverly thought about the consequences of the the cause and effect. Okay, knowing that it's something that's going to either endanger your life. Okay, so when I talk about dealing with or confronting people who bullied me and treated me in a way where they feel as though they can just throw my name out any which way they want to, okay, I'm letting them know that this has severe consequences on a person's life. Okay, if they show that they do not give a shit, okay, at least let them know that legally this would be something that should be taken to the court, that I would deserve compensation for what these people did. Now, unfortunately, they're so powerful, I can't do that. Okay, but you need to understand, you caused me an injustice that I suffer from because of something you did. Okay, which means that it was so ugly that I would never do that to anyone else. Okay, your gossip and slander hurts and harms people. Okay, and when you talk about the legal system and letting them know what that means legally, that holds them accountable. Now, maybe you may not get any money out of the legal system for the injustice that was caused to you, but we all know who's guilty, right? Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Also, I think that this suffering should be taught to children at a young age. That would be another lesson. The evils that need to be avoided in the world. Also, let them understand that we do live in hell. I mean, I would teach my kid that we do live in hell, and that and what suffering is. And like I said, in my other slide, if they were to damage something that belonged to somebody, they need to understand that they should be held accountable for that, right? And then the suffering that they caused and the loss that they caused someone else to experience. They need to understand that. And they should be able to understand that they should show gratitude for everything that they do have. Because, sadly in hell, not everybody gets they don't always get justice. They don't always get what they're worth. They don't always, sometimes there's people who struggle years and years and years and years and years, and they, like C.D. Berganza, it looks like, he struggled years and years and years for, not really having any stability or feeling safe, you know what I mean? And people suffer all the time. So, people think that, I don't have a lot of things, right? But people think that, I have luxurious things, which I laugh. Most of my things are either secondhand or things I made myself, or things I might have repaired or whatever. I don't have a lot of things, okay? But the things that I do have, I am grateful for everything that I do have, and I try to make the best out of the situations I've been in. I think that teaching gratitude, because we live in hell. I mean, it could be worse. You know what I mean? I will tell you that there's demonic forces that get angry when, it's like it's like people keep you down. You see what I'm saying? People keep you down and they make you suffer a lot of times, okay? So, and this is something that I believe, if I was to raise children, that they would be aware of, that the suffering that goes on, not to create any suffering, and to be grateful for the little things that we do have, however small it is. You know what I mean? So this is one of the reasons why, I'm grateful to be able to walk up to the grocery store in my car, even though I don't have a car. I'm grateful for that. You know what I mean? I'm grateful, for everything that I have, and I truly mean that. That's not bullshit. You know what I mean? Because I understand how wicked things can and will be, in this world. So anything that I have, I'm very grateful for, and I don't have much, but I use my creativity to make up for the things I don't have. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's sad that the 99-cent store is no longer in existence. I don't make people may have exaggerated and act like I have luxuries, but I hardly have anything. I don't have anything that's worth anything. I have a few pairs of like silver earrings, and they're not really worth much. I've never had like, diamonds or anything like that, you know? And for some people that want to even take the things that I even like just a little bit, shows you how demonic that is. Okay? Because they want you to sit here and suffer. That's sick. Okay? It's sick. They wanted me to just like implode in on myself. So, yeah, that's hell for you, right? So be grateful for the things you have. And yes, I would definitely teach my child the hell theory, and also the fact that gratitude is very important. Now, I suppose this kind of goes in line with the same thing about being polite, but I do know that love is sacred. Like anybody who cares about you in this world is something that should be cherished and highly respected. It is very, very rare, okay? Because a lot of people have families just for other reasons than just bringing in human life into existence. They have their own particular interests as to why they're having kids, okay? Now, but in my world, I believe that in order to have harmony in your home, you should hopefully have love for your family. And sometimes that's beyond your control because, when you think in terms of reincarnation, or even, yeah, in terms of reincarnation, I mean, who's to say that you might give birth to an ancestor that no one in the family likes, okay? But luckily that didn't happen. But still, you know what I'm saying? Is it's like, there are certain things that, like when I think about my father, like I loved my father, okay? And I thought about his well-being. I thought, I always wanted to make my dad happy. I didn't mind walking to 7-Eleven and crossing the desert and, getting him that York peppermint patty and bringing it all the way home. All right, because I loved him, I was happy to see him eat it, right? Because you love that person. And when you love people, you give them special treatment. You put them on a pedestal. You don't treat them the same. Okay, that's the difference between, loving a person and just an everyday average person. Okay, if you can't, to me, you should be able to give um, something that you don't give to anyone else if you claim to care about that person, right? Just like, when I had a car, I let my son borrow my car. Whereas I would not let just anyone borrow my car. Why did I let my son borrow my car? Because I love my son, right? Same thing if I had a friend who's been my best friend for many, 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 many years. This is obviously hypothetical because I don't have any more friends, okay? But let's just say, for example, I had a friend and she was my buddy, thick and thin, right? And she never disappointed me, not like this gang stalking thing ever happened. She would never be a part of something like that. She always knew what my rights were and she was defending me, okay? That would be my true friend. Okay, in this case, I know that if she was in the tight spot and she needed money to borrow and I had the ability and the resources to give that to her, I would most likely do it if I knew if I didn't need the money and it was not going to cause me any hardships. Because when it comes to making decisions in relationships and stuff like that, you want to make sure that there's not going to be any tension. So I would decide, if this money, do I need this money? And if I don't need it and I'm able to give it, I would let her borrow it. I would give her a privilege that I would not give anyone else. Why? Because I love her. I'm putting her up on a pedestal. Okay? I don't give love to everybody. Love is a sacred thing. Not everybody deserves it. Like, I grew up thinking that my family deserved love. I grew up thinking that the kids I exchanged phone numbers with and ate lunch with deserved some sort of, maybe not love, but I at least thought they deserved respect. And some of these people didn't even deserve that. Okay? But what we can do in life is we can be polite. Not everybody deserves your love. Okay? And that's just the reality of it. Okay? So when it comes to me understanding that, okay, I have every right to be reserved about that. Okay? And I have every right to, show my affection accordingly and withhold any affection. And I wouldn't really be withholding, because there's certain people that are impossible to love. This is one of the reasons why I have a big issue with, people thinking that, that I'm obligated to forgive them, that they have some sort of special place in my heart when they don't. It's impossible to have a place in my heart if you abuse me, okay? But people have their own ways of showing favoritism, which I have the right to do. That does not mean that that favoritism should go and relate to things like the workplace, where it's a legal issue. Like, for example, I don't ever plan on being a manager ever again. But like, if I was somebody who was working as a manager, I don't hire based on race, okay? But I do base my things on performance and stuff like that, qualifications, whatever, okay? But when it comes to my personal life, who do I choose to care about? What kind of person am I going to connect with? I'm going to connect with people who are compatible with me. And if we are compatible, then feelings of love can be developed. Meaning, like, you have a level of trust, you have a sense of friendship, there's a warmth there, and there's protection there. And there is no deceiving, no betrayals. That is something I will not put up with. Okay? So the people who meet my standards deserve to be shown love. Okay? It is impossible for me to love everyone, but I can be polite. Okay, I think for people who know me, or at least got a chance to know me a little bit, know that I value sincerity. Like, I'm known for not saying things I don't mean. Okay, so when it comes to, being able to interact with people, I'm not the kind of person that's going to water down my beliefs, my goals, my ideas to fit in. Okay, but at the same time, I do understand that everybody's going to have different views on specific things that are not necessarily relating to moral issues. Like, it's not something that's going against the law. Like, okay, I personally think a lot of women should learn how to sew, right? Because I think I see the benefits of it, right? It's not a law, it's an optional thing. Some people would prefer to buy, their home goods instead of sew them or make them their own. That's a personal preference, right? So, I'm somebody who tries to be as old-fashioned as I possibly can in my little world. I like my life, okay? So I know that, when I was working over at Murray Family Farms, I was being bullied because some people didn't think I was that into technology or whatever. And the problem with it is like, I understand that technology has its place, and it certainly does, and I use it for specific reasons, but I do not choose to be somebody who's just like engrossed in like the modern day technology. And I'm not somebody who's up on all the gadgets. Now, if I was to like modify my beliefs and my lifestyle to accommodate this group, that was absolutely impossible to even like, right? I would be very unhappy, absolutely miserable. Why? Because I'm going to basically have to not be who I am, okay? And I have to be sincere. I have to be the kind of person I need to be. And I get tired of these people trying to think it was not okay to think that it was funny to try to change me. It was not funny to think that you could bully me in that sort of manner. That's the reason why I fucking hate these people, okay? Because it was completely insensitive to think that I didn't have any feelings and that they thought it was okay to sacrifice who I was to fit into a group that I don't like. Okay, now when it comes to like understanding what you get when you put certain things out there, right? Like, I remember my dad used to like coconut cake. That was my least favorite cake, okay? Every Friday he'd come in and he would bring in a cake from a bakery. Okay, my mom baked cakes, but on Friday, for whatever reason, we would buy out food. Like we would go to our restaurant, whatever restaurant we wanted, and he would bring in some sort of cake, right? And I remember us eating the coconut cake, and I was just like not really that enthusiastic about it, right? And everybody kept saying, "Oh, how good the cake was," you know what I mean? And I knew every time that you encourage that, Dad was going to buy that same cake. It's going to keep coming into the house if you keep acting like you like it, and you're going to have to be around it all the time. And I kept thinking, oh, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I know that there's a group involved, but I would say, okay, I think I'm going to eat like a Hostess snack instead of for dessert. I'm going to go ahead and forsake the coconut cake and just go ahead and have my Hostess, whatever, okay? I never said that I liked the coconut cake because I knew I was going to end up getting more of the coconut cake. Right? So I don't like to put myself in those situations. I have to think about those sort of things. Sometimes we bend our feelings because God knows I loved my dad, right? And anything that hurt his feelings, I felt that. Like I really felt like I was really closely connected with my empathy with my father. Like if my mom yelled at my dad, I would want to coddle him and make him feel better. Okay, if she was, I remember one time he wanted like the last can of Sprite in the thing, and she said she couldn't have it. And I remember just looking at my mom with dagger eyes, like, "What do you mean he can't have it? He's the one who pays the bills. Like, what are you talking about?" I was always protecting my father. I was very, I loved my father with a deep sincerity. Okay, so, I would only, if sometimes when you care about somebody and you. Compromise. Sometimes it's okay to compromise, okay? But if it's going to wear you down, meaning like a day-to-day thing where it's something that you cannot deal with, it's better to say goodbye. That's an incompatibility right there, okay? But when it comes to certain things like coconut cake or something that's frivolous that can be replaced or you can somehow modify it. Like in this case, everybody that's going to eat coconut cake, that's fine. I don't like coconut cake. I guess I'll go ahead and have like a Hostess fruit pie instead. All right. I can make those compromises and still keep a good relationship with my father. But I was unfortunately in a group where it was like all or nothing. You know what I mean? It was all or nothing. You either be the way that we want you to be or kill yourself. You know what I mean? So when it comes to sincerity, I understand that like when I compliment somebody, I mean it. I don't say things I don't mean because if you compliment somebody, that means you like that person and you want to be around that person more, right? If I compliment somebody and I don't really mean it, then I might end up having to be stuck with somebody I don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? So I'm very careful about the things that I say or try to. You know what I mean? And there were certain people that I realized. Like for example, who were my celebrity soul tribe that I said nice things about, and then as I started doing downloads, I realized these people didn't deserve that because I didn't have a full scope of who these people were, right? So you understand that your words should have meaning. So when I say something, I mean it, okay? And I don't like to put out anything or say something that I don't fully believe in because I end up getting more of it. You know what I mean? So that's my view. Anyway. So if I say something, it means that I'm being truthful. I mean it. You know what I mean? I want to be somebody who stands for that, and that's important to me. So I'm going to move on to the next thing. Now, I want to go over altruism because, I had mentioned in the beginning when I first created this channel about my views on individualism versus altruism, right? Now, I understand that altruism is a part of society. In order to go along, get along, you have to kind of go along at times, right? But let me examine the definition of altruism, and I'm going to explain to you my point of view on that issue. Now, the definition, according to WordDic, when I'm looking at what it means, is number one, unselfish concern for the welfare of others, selflessness. Okay, now I believe that I do believe that if you look throughout my life, there's people in this town, although they would not want to admit it, have shown that I have shown a sense of caring to certain people. Now I remember, and I don't believe that I'm somebody who I don't believe in like people like airing out their so-called good deeds because I feel as though there's some sort of To me, if you really do care about people, you do not need to have your good deeds recognized, okay? If your good deeds are something that you do from your heart, I don't need a pat on the back for it. But I'm going to tell you a certain time, one time, that I did wasn't really a good deed, but I mean, when I'm looking back, I can tell that I cared about this person. And I didn't even know who this person was. Now, I remember when I was working over at Murray Family Farms, right? I was stopping off at McDonald's, I guess, to pick up some food for the crew. Okay, and there was this van that was parked in the parking lot with a kid that was crying and a lady that was just freaking out, right? And so I asked, I guess the lady was, she couldn't speak English, right? So anyway, um, I went inside the building and I was saying that I asked like what was going on outside, and they were saying that this lady had lost her wallet. What happened was this lady had just got here and she lost her money. She did not know how to speak English very well, and she had like $1,000 or something like that, which isn't much when you think about traveling, but still she didn't have very much money with her, and her kid was crying because she, not really thinking, I guess, put the money in the care of the kid, right? And so the kid was like rambling through his backpack, trying to figure out what they do with this money. And I felt this extreme compassion for this kid because I remember what it was like to get the blame for everything, right? And I kept imagining this family trying to travel, trying to maybe settle down or get a new start or whatever. And this kid was feeling the responsibility of losing money and how it might affect the journey of his life, the life journey of his family, and how he's going to have to deal with that emotionally for the rest of his life. Okay, so I felt bad. So I remember going to work and feeling sad that day and coming home and feeling sad. And I remember like the next day I called from McDonald's, right? Because I wanted to see if they found their money. Apparently they did. What happened was they caught an employee taking that wallet and doing something with it, so they ended up returning it to the rightful owner. I was relieved that that happened, right? Now, why am I bringing this story up is because I have compassion for people. I have I can cry because other people are suffering. I have compassion. Like I had mentioned one time before that when I was a kid, I was really sensitive to watching things like Snoopy go home, come home, or Nestor the long-eared donkey, and it would make me cry because I'm too sensitive to things like that. Like I feel other people's pain. That's what people call me an empath, or I'm empathic, right? Because I have compassion for other people. But I am in no way somebody who is altruistic. What do I mean by that? Meaning, like I understand that my life journey is for me to be my responsibility in my life is to get through it. Okay, with a clean conscience, with doing the best I possibly can for my highest good. If I have the ability to help others and I am not in any way going to be set back, okay, then I would help somebody. But if I am not in a position to do that, to where I'm going to, if I'm in a position to help somebody, but I'm going to end up suffering, I can't do that. And I don't suggest anybody do that because you're going to end up resenting that person, right? Now, sometimes we get in situations like that, right? But I understand I have to keep a level head. And also, I have never had anyone in my life where I had to feel that way for them. Okay, I've only had people who wanted to abuse me. I've only had people who whatever. So I will tell you that kind of altruism comes over people. That kind of need or that green light to sacrifice something only comes from love. Okay, like when I would say when growing up when I was younger and my son was younger and I was raising my kid, and if it came down to it, here's $10 and I'm running low on facial powder, but my son needs, some new socks or something. And I'm like, okay, what's it going to be? I sure would like to have that facial powder because, I'm a girly girl, but at the same time, my son needs his stuff. So my son's always going to come. He's going to trump, okay? And no doubt about it, no me feeling shortchanged. Why? Because I love my son. He is worth it, okay? Then I will. Will I do that for somebody else? No, I will not. And nobody should ever put any expectation on me to have that sort of feeling of altruism, or what I call forced philanthropy. All right, so the other definition of altruism is going to be instinctive behavior that is detrimental to the individual but favors the survival or spread of that individual's genes as by benefiting its relatives. Okay, all my relatives are pieces of shit. Okay, I don't have anyone to care about. I only have me. So once again, Maria's not into altruism. Maria's an individualist. Number 3, regard for others, both natural and moral. Devotion to the interest of others, brotherly kindness, opposed to egotism or selfishness. Okay, like I said, I have compassion for people. When I'm in a position to help, and I am not going to feel any sort of feelings of being deprived after helping that person, and if I am in a position to help a person, I am going to help that person. Okay, but I am never going to feel obligated to help anybody. Okay, and when we help, when I do believe that, because we should be self-sufficient, if anybody gives anybody anything, that's a blessing and that's kind. But nobody's obligated to do anything. Okay, we can either donate or we don't. Okay, and like I said, it's not that I have not done things in the past. Like, there's homeless people I see all the time. I'm broke myself. Okay, I just got, like, mommed out of the workforce. Okay, but there were times when I used to see homeless people and I wouldn't think about giving them $1 or $2. At this point, every little amount of money that I have matters. I am not in a position to give. Okay, and I understand that. And if I was to give somebody when I don't have enough, guess what happens? I'm starting to resent that person. You've heard people talk about how we're tired of seeing certain people because everybody's always trying to get a handout. Right? It sounds selfish, right? But we understand. It's like, okay, well, at some point, people have to be, take care of themselves. And I've always tried to take care of myself. If I am in a position to help somebody, if I'm in a position I can do that, I'm going to. Okay, but I am not going to put on an extra burden to myself. My ultimate goal in this life is for me to get through it. It is the way it is, okay? If I wish I did have all the resources I possibly, if I was wealthy, you best believe I would have all kinds of help for people who are homeless. I mean, real help. Not just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. I would offer real help. Like rehabilitation services that really work. Stuff like, like that. I would do that. Okay, but unfortunately, I'm barely getting by myself, so Maria doesn't do altruism, okay? But Maria does do her heartfelt, sincere help when she's in a position to do so. Okay, so let's go back to this, okay? My standard of conduct is I don't let people call me generous. I don't let people try to make me feel guilty about doing something or not doing something for the benefit of a group that didn't give a shit about me. You know what I mean? Or people who basically walked on my father or basically disrespected me or my father or thought it was okay to sit here and mock my race or anything else and then think I'm supposed to do them favors. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? So I'm going to move on to the next standard of conduct. But charity, to me, is an option. Okay? There's no law that says I have to give to charity. Okay? But there is a part of me that is like, by universal law, sometimes my heart is moved to help people or be concerned for those people. And that to me is an act of kindness. Okay? And it's a sincere act of kindness, which is the one that matters the most. Okay, so I would say, me talking about my views and stuff is pretty new, because I know in the past, I've always been very hesitant to talk about the things that I believed or things that I thought, because I understand how, like, the social platform works. People generally have an idea, and if you don't agree with that idea, then you're going to deal with some sort of opposition or whatever. And so I understand how petty people can be, and I figured, I would just go ahead and stay out of certain conversations. Now, you'll notice that I wrote here on the bottom, it says the goal is to get through hell. This is true, okay? All I'm trying to do is get through life, okay? A life that I myself would not have chosen. Why? Because of the situation of being a targeted individual, of the fact that I missed out so much on life, being associated in this network that really did not have any good, positive thoughts about me, and basically abused me throughout my entire life. Why would you want that? So the only thing I want to do is make sure that I live to the fullest life I possibly can at whatever age that is, and die naturally. Not take out my life like I did the last time. Also, my goal is, and in order to do that, is you got to be peaceful, right? I have the right to have my views. Okay, I have the right to have my views, especially since I do not, go up a direct opposition to any sort of institution. Now, I only spoke about what happened to me because I realized there was a violation and I needed to speak up because it was getting to me. Okay, for years and years and years and years and years and years. Okay, but my view is to keep all my opinions and views to myself unless I'm asked or interrogated. Right? In this case, I kind of feel like though I was interrogated because they blocked off my jobs. Then they got, they were following me online, and I'm trying to figure out what in the world is the issue. The issue is that, I understand about the king's spouse and all this other stuff. Okay, so that's neither here nor there. Okay, the reason why I have this picture of this snake here is because this is a scene from a movie, a cartoon that I saw. I think it came out in the 70s. It had to because I saw it when I was a kid. It's called Ricky Tikki Tavi. Now, a lot of people remember seeing this, and perhaps you remember this scene, okay? It's the scene where, the snake is making eye contact with the poor little, I think, Ricky Tikki Tavi, right? And he's basically saying, if you move, I strike, and if you don't move, I will strike, right? So it's kind of like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because I know throughout the years, I was just somebody who went to work and came home, minding my own business, doing my humdrum, boring life every single day. And I know that people were, speculating as to what I believe. I didn't think somebody even threw out one time that they thought that I might have been interested in being a Muslim. Okay, all the negative stereotypes they like to associate and try to pin on black people, that shit was like thrown on me all the time, right? Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, okay, I hope this blows over soon because I really just want to get on with my life. Okay? I didn't want to sit here and have to, because what happens when you start talking about your views? Guess what? Then people are going to try to pick at you and try to, see flaws in what you think. And it's like, if I was one of those people who was political, I would be the kind of person who would already go ahead and throw my ideas out there. Like, some people, you're at lunch and they're like, hey, what do you think about this? And this person's running for president. What do you think about this? What do you think about this new initiative? What do you think of this? They constantly talk about politics, okay? If that was my goal in life, I would be throwing out all of my stuff at times where people are gathered, right? But I don't. Okay, so it was almost like if I was quiet about my views, then people were suspicious of me. And if I was the kind of person, which I'm not, who was sharing my views out openly, everybody was going to turn around and look at me and be resentful. What do you need? Why are you sitting here talking about that? Why are you going to bring that up? Oh, I can't believe you're talking about politics right now. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, but I do have my views. And my views are based on my own experience. And my views are based on things that are reality for me. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm making this right now because I feel as though the group that I was associated with, okay, the one that has been harming me for very many years, is, I can't understand how they didn't understand. I don't know why. Okay, exactly. Other than somebody being evil, wicked, and enjoying weird, like, abusing people for pleasure, I guess. Okay. Why something like this could last that long after I'm being very upfront. I didn't like it. I wasn't comfortable with it. How it made me feel. Year after year after year after year after making these same old videos. Okay. But maybe there were, because I know that people were talking about this whole Christian thing as if I was somebody who was trying to go up against the church and destroy the concept of Christian marriage or whatever. No. All my life, I have been abused as a target with people who decided to put me in this program and blah, 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 blah. Okay, is this have something to do with Christianity? Has something to do with the corruption of Christianity? It does. Something I never would have asked for. So this is basically me saying, you know what, these are my opinions and these are my views. Okay, and a lot of my opinions and views when it comes to religion is based on things I've read in the Bible, okay, even though I'm not a Christian, okay, and things that I've read in other forms of religious texts, like learning about things like demons, learning about things like angels, I do believe that my opinions are based on fact, or at least I'm coming up with reasonable explanations as to why I believe the things that I do. Okay, I'm not somebody who's going to be very vocal in what I believe, because number one, I don't believe that my views has a majority thought. Like, it doesn't even have a place on a ballot anywhere. It doesn't have any. It's not. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. Okay, I'm an independent, but I'm even so independent. I don't even think I register. Okay, all because I feel that different. I've been made to feel like the other all my life, and yet people want me to sit here and, feel like I should be drawing close to these people, the very same people who only made me feel and did deliberately did everything they could to try to make me feel like an outcast. But I do think that I am an outcast when it comes to this group of people. I can never relate exactly. I am in no way a threat to these people. I'm just getting on with my life. Okay, it's not my bag. I'm not into politics. I'm not into that sort of stuff. Okay, these are my views based on my experience. Okay, I'm just trying to get through life. I would never threaten an organization. I would never threaten a government. I think I've always been someone who's respected government as much as I possibly can. I'm not saying I'm perfect, okay, but I would say as much as I possibly can. And meaning, like, there's certain things that go on that I don't agree with, and I only talk and speak up when I feel like it's hit very close to home. And after missing out on a lifetime, okay, I feel as though it's hit very close to home. So anyway, yeah, I keep my opinions to myself, and I don't expect the majority of people to like it, but you know what? I have the right to my own opinions, and also they are based on things that have happened to me and my views of the world. Based on, of course, my experience. Okay, now I'm going to get to the topic of sex, right? Okay, so um, now most people know that I do not have a relationship. I have not been in had sexual contact since I think 2017. I'm not a very sexually driven person, mainly because, like I said, I don't like people touching me. I really don't like people touching me. I'm weirded out by it, mainly because I've dealt with abuse all my life, okay? So if you think about somebody who values sincerity, if you think about somebody who doesn't like dealing with fake people, I'm somebody who looks at most people and wonder how in the world do they put up with having sex with someone they don't like. It makes me sick. Okay, so um, but I am in no way saying that just because I'm somebody who's not a sexual person that sex is bad. I do not believe that. In fact, I understand that, if a person has a sexual desire, then they should act on that. That if your body is telling you something that you need to fulfill something, then of course, by all means. I mean, why would I don't want people to think that I'm a prude or anything like that. But when it comes to sexual attraction, I think this is something I'm going to talk about. I think when I look back on the kind of men that I've liked, and I would say I've liked a diverse group of men, like for different reasons. There's been men who looked extremely masculine, and they wore their masculinity in a way that attracted me, right? And then there's been men who had a soft side, right? A very soft emotional side, right? That was appealing because it's nice to see that displayed in a man. Okay, there's been men that I felt attraction to that did not necessarily look like they came out of a GQ magazine. Okay, I've liked men who've had, like, callus on their hands, and I've liked men that were considered pretty boys. It all depends, okay? But what matters most is that somebody would not be interested in abusing me. Okay, if they have an abusive behavior, which I was in a program where I was set up because of targeting, because of me having a reputation that I didn't deserve. I met a lot of disgusting people, okay, evil people, because me being in this program. And I would say anybody who would participate in this program is not somebody that I would want to cuddle up and be intimate with, right? Now, I also want to talk about, the issue of things like homosexuality and things like that. And I know that because there was, a switch um, in my sex, okay? Because apparently, I don't know, going just back to when I was the wife of King Tut, okay? I was manufactured as Prince Alamehu. When I say manufactured, I'm referring to the cloning system. Went from being a female to a male, okay, and then they changed me from being a male, and I think maybe they were trying to punish me for maybe marrying a royal person or something. I don't know. They have their own agendas, and then they turned it around and act like I was being disobedient, so they made me a woman. These things are so offensive, it's not even funny, okay? But whatever the case is, I value life in general, okay? Whether I came back as a man or I come back as a woman, I'm always going to make the best of whatever situation. Now, I definitely would say that I'm somebody who is a woman, okay? And chances are, maybe as Prince Alamehu could have very well been somebody who exhibited, maybe kind of feminine characteristics. I don't know. I've never looked into it that deeply. Okay, but that doesn't mean that he was gay. I don't know. I don't feel his sexuality that deeply. Really, I don't. But I do know that Prince Alamehu might have started feeling like I feel as Maria Gordon in his later years, where he doesn't want to have to be around people because most people are become toxic because of the program. Okay, so I'm not interested in being intimate with somebody, especially if they're only going to use me for sex and then turn around and be some goddamn informant, right? So it really annoyed me. See, I'm trying to tell these people who infiltrated my life, okay, what they were, with their nosy behavior and the kind of infiltration that they were causing. This is the reaction I react towards it, okay? So all you've made around me is gross people that I would never be interested in. Okay, because they're going to have a negative attitude, or they're going to be brainwashed, or they're going to be something that I don't want to deal with. Okay, do I deal with sexual frustration? Some people who haven't had sex for a very long time, they sit there and they masturbate or they fantasize about being with somebody. I can honestly tell you that's the last thing on my mind. Okay, I'm the kind of person, my life has been set up where I do not have time to sit here and fantasize about some big hunk man or taking me off to some sort of paradise to where we're having some sort of more romantic rendezvous. I don't have time for that shit. Okay? I have always been somebody who cared about being sufficient, and I value that far more than anything else. Now, when it comes to, sexual preference, I have talked to people, seen people skip off with, a sexual partner. I think I must have different standards than most people when it comes to being sexual, when it comes to sexual attraction in general, okay? I will say that who I am sexually drawn to, okay, which that's a very rare thing, okay, and I'm going to say almost outdated because I haven't felt that way in many, many years, okay, but when you do feel some sort of sexual attraction to, I have felt a sexual attraction towards people, I had to feel like attracted to them, like literally attracted to them, like they must be pleasing to me in my eye, whether they be masculine or have that little soft edge or whatever. There's something about them that seems appealing to me by visual. I'm visual as well. Okay, so I've seen some people, and some people it seems like they can screw anything. Just by the people, I look at some of their sex partners, I'm like, you must. That doesn't matter to them, and that's their choice, okay? But I'm somebody who appreciates different forms of male beauty, and so yeah, I think that's for my personal preference. They have to be, and it's not very defined. Male beauty can be defined so broadly. Because, like I said, there's masculine-looking men. There's men that look really, they have like a jagged edge. Some men have more of a softer look. There's men. I just think a lot of men are very beautiful. Okay, but when it comes to me being sexually attracted to them, if you're a perp, there's no way in the world I'd be sexually attracted to you. I'm going to want to run from you, okay? Because you're only going to abuse me. Is there something else I want to talk about when it comes to sex? Yeah, I completely think that people have the right to enjoy and do whatever kind of sexual activities they want to, as long as, of course, the people are over the age of 18, and, of course, if it's consensual, okay? Things like rape and stuff like that, child molestation, it's something I am, of course, never going to endorse and think that it's okay. Okay, now I do know and suspect that there were some people that were in my group that were basically bullying me, that did certain things that they shouldn't have done according to the law. Like, for example, there might have been some people who might have had, sorry, I got hiccups, who had, like, might be considered pedophiles. Okay, I'm never going to endorse that. I'm never going to approve it. I'm never going to think it's okay. Okay, but if, like, for example, incest, I'm not comfortable with incest. I have my reasons for it. Okay, some people may be turned on. As a matter of fact, like when you're bored, right, and you start like, I wonder, do they have like porn in this sort of thing, right? And yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not like, somebody who's just so different that I've never looked up that kind of stuff because it's funny, right? I remember watching a video, a porn with midgets in it, right? It was called Midget Madness. Oh my God. It was hilarious, okay? So I got to think, what kind of porn is out there? There's all kinds of porn out there, okay? And yes, there's the kind of porn. The reason why I'm laughing is because, it's just like, yeah, I think some porn is funny, okay? Mainly because it's just like they got these really cheesy storylines and stuff like that. It's comical, right? Okay, but anyway, porn in general, if that's what they're into, I find porn comical. Therefore, I'm not somebody who gets off on porn. I find it silly, especially like the storylines and stuff like that. I would probably watch. I used to watch porns for the comedy. Okay. I used to watch them for the comedy. But, I do understand that people have their sexual preference. They have sexual fetishes. They have all kinds of things. And you know what? It's a part of their makeup. It's a part of their DNA. It's a part of what makes them lively. It's part of their vitality. And, I'm never going to judge it. All I'm saying is, do what you want to do. But I am never going to be somebody who's going to endorse or approve of people molesting children. Is there something else I want to say? Oh, that's it. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, I think that when in the last slide I was trying to explain homosexuality or my views on homosexuality, and then of course, I veered off into something else that related to, how I am, right? So anyway, let me fill in some more blanks about the homosexuality thing. I was raised to believe growing up that my parents taught us that homosexuality was wrong. Okay, and when I was younger, I believed that too. I do think that as I got older, I realized that people have their reasons why they end up with the partners that they do. Okay. So I realized that it's a little bit deeper than that. Because when I was younger, I was kind of, I guess I would say, till I got to be about my mid-20s, I was very judgmental about that sort of stuff, okay? Because I didn't understand. I saw things in a very black and white type situation. Like if the person was gay, then they were gay and then they were somehow flawed or whatever. This is what I was raised to believe. You know what I mean? And then I got to understand or meet other people and see, I understand most people, they got their little wickedness about them. But overall, I mean, it wasn't so much me analyzing that part. I was more analyzing their relationship and why they were in the relationship. Because I used to like study gay couples too and stuff. Um, I think sometimes like in my life, I can't really speak for why people were in their relationships. I can just remember studying certain people's relationships, and how they got along and stuff like that. But as I got older, I found myself interested in perhaps exploring homosexuality, not because I was interested in the act of having sex with a woman itself. I kept thinking, okay, well, I'm the kind of person, I'm a very emotional person. And if you think about the nature of man and woman, generally men are not somebody who's going to supply women with anything emotional, and they won't do it for a long period of time because most men, at least in my situation, okay, because I don't like to paint out everybody, but maybe it's because I'm a perv, maybe it's because I'm around the wrong kind of people. I don't know. I'm not going to try to put this label on everybody, but the people that I was around, never seemed to be on the same level as me. So you wonder, is there some sort of science to finding partners? Because when I was younger, in my 20s, and then getting closer to my 30s, I was still on the idea of, people should be in partnerships, or it was a part of life. This is what I had registered in my mind, that this was something that was a part of life. It should be a part of life, okay? So I don't believe that that is correct. I mean, some people are not meant to be in partnerships. They're just not, okay? But in that time when I was thinking about it, experimenting, what kind of person am I supposed to be with? And am I supposed to, should I be gay? Like, I seriously, like, should I be dating women? You know what I mean? That thought came over me, right? But, you know, obviously I never, like, had, like, girlfriends and stuff like that. I've never been that way. But it's something that people consider, especially if you start thinking back on why men do not fulfill the emotional needs of women. So a lot of women would probably think, okay, well, is it a woman that can fulfill my emotional needs? Not necessarily, okay, but I know that I fulfill my emotional needs. Okay, I don't need that. Okay, but when it comes either one, I don't need a man or a woman to fulfill my emotional needs, and I don't really think that anybody could. Okay, but when it comes to sexual attraction, do I think that there's some women that are appealing, like they look good? I would say yeah. I don't think that I really have a strong sexual drive at this age, mainly because I'm more into survival mode more so than anything else. Okay, but do I think there's some beautiful women? Absolutely, there's beautiful women, and most women that I think that I've looked at in the past that were attractive were women who were very feminine. Like, I'm a feminine type of person. Like, I would be attracted to the feminine type of woman, okay? Or slightly kind of tomboyish, okay? Slightly, but not overly, okay? Either way, you know, yes, I've had my girl crushes in the past, but I've never had like a girl romance, okay? My thing is like we're talking about the topic of sex. People want to know what I believe. So I'm just basically saying it's completely understandable sometimes for people to be attracted to certain people for certain reasons. Like, I remember, you know, I had this crush on this one girl when I was younger, right? And I just thought she was cute because she talked about her cat and stuff. You know what I mean? And girls have their girl crushes and stuff like that. It doesn't go any further than that. So yeah, in my past, I would say, yeah, I think it's a natural part of life. Some people would attack that, you know, but I feel as though those things just happen naturally. It's not like I sat there and said, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to be a homosexual for, like, you know, maybe 2 weeks or so, as long as my little crush on this girl lasted or whatever, you know. It is what it is, you know what I mean? It's, you know, but then that's what made me start rethinking about how I was so harsh in my judgment towards homosexuals when I was younger, because I was, you know what I mean? It was like, you know, to my family believed like if you're gay, something was wrong with you. You know what I mean? And as I got older, I was like, well, you know, I think that's kind of unfair. Yeah, it's kind of unfair. So no, I don't have a problem with homosexuality. So I hope that gives you a little bit of information about how I feel on that topic, you know. Oops, I was talking and I had the wrong slide up. Anyway, you know, I value self-sufficiency, and in my life, because of my unique circumstances, self-sufficiency is the only way. And like, you know, I really want to reiterate that, you know, this is my view, my unique view that I live based on my experience. Because, you know, like when we're talking about the way people live, then people are going to try to accuse you of, you know how people jump to conclusions, okay? But this, you know, as a result of the things I've lived through, I have become very self-sufficient, and I've been that way, you know, for a very, very long time. I only feel safe with myself. I only feel like I can, you know, sleep at night knowing that I'm the driver behind the wheel. I've only dealt with people who've abused me multiple times, family. You know my story, okay? So I don't feel safe with other people. What else did I want to say about this issue about being safe? Um, I do stay in my own lane, and I don't like to interfere or invite other people to interfere with my life, unless of course I feel like I want to do some sort of collaboration or something like that. And then at that time, of course, you know, that's something that I feel as though you know, I should always be able to offer some sort of, you know, measure of in sort of some sort of compensation. And like I said, you know, I was planning on things like when I was doing the Swan Song Manifesto. Unfortunately, those things didn't work out, mainly because, you know, there's a system in place and you know how that works out. But anyway, I don't really like to when I'm dealing with other people, um, I generally like doing things on my own. Okay. And I think what was very difficult for me in the work situation is that, oftentimes they like to make you team up with people that are already going to be against you. Okay. Because they spread the rumors, they tell people how to see you, how to treat you, they paint you out as this negative person, and then they expect you to function on the job normally, and then you expect your partner to partner with you and work harmoniously. This is one of the reasons why I hated this thing. So, through all the years of them doing this sort of stupid shit, like at school, and also setting me up at work where I'm forced to work with other people when it's not really a good idea, especially when people are gossiping about me, that is the worst thing you can do to a person. But since this whole program was built on torture, this is the kind of tactics that they pull, right? Okay, I hate working with people. I'm telling you that right now. Now, at this point, now I used to like working with people in group type, settings and stuff like that. But of course, being a target, that changes. Why? Because you now know that people see you as some sort of bad person. So here you come on and you're at the workplace and it just becomes a nightmare. Okay. So I've always felt more comfortable just being on my own. Okay. And I automatically, anytime something goes on, like at work or whatever, I pick up my stuff and I'm ready to do it by myself. Okay. I honestly hate, after year after year, hate having to deal with the kind of crap that these people put me through. Okay, having to partner up with people that are plotting your own death. Okay, that's how sick it really is. So I am happier working on my own, and I do stay in my own lane, and I do not sit here and try to invite or ask for any sort of input from people that I know are going to mistreat me. Okay, so meaning like I'm 100% self-motivated, self-sufficient, and that's how I choose to be. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, if people understood, which I think people do understand what I'm telling you, because they've known that I've dealt with an abusive situation for my entire life, so it should only make sense that I'm going to function by myself. I work better by myself. I'm a loner, okay? And that's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm very grateful for it because it saved me my sanity. Wow, I'm almost done with this. I've been at this all day. Anyway, this kind of goes along with the do not, hurt other people thing, okay? I don't believe in taking what does not belong to you, okay? That means credit for my work. I don't take credit for other people's work. I've had people take credit for my work, and I'm somebody who's worked hard. I'm somebody who's been abused at the workplace. Been somebody who's like, harassed and discredited in the workplace. So I know the pain. Especially, I'm somebody who cared about my work, okay, and struggled for many years, okay, only to have people steal my work and think that it's funny. It's not funny, okay. So I know the pain. I would never do that to someone else. Also, I don't like it when people steal my ideas. And of course, when it comes to kids that steal things, that's another issue. Now, when you're raising your kid, kids take things by nature. Okay, like when my son was really little, he'd run up into the living room and he would take things like the remote control and stuff like that, and run off. He'd laugh and be all giggly. And I know when little kids are small, they run into the kitchen and they grab a chocolate chip cookie or two, right, behind their parents' back. And this is a part of teaching children right from wrong. Okay, now if I was raising a child now, this is me. Okay, because I will say it's natural to steal. Okay, I know that sounds silly, but it's natural to steal. This is something kids need to understand is wrong, right? So like when the little kid comes in and he helps himself to the chocolate chip cookie, for some kids, it's okay. Their parents approve of them taking that chocolate chip cookie. Why? Because in their household they have rules to where you couldn't just help yourself. So it's important that you establish those rules with your kid as to what is acceptable, what's not, and what is considered stealing. Okay, and let them know that that does hurt other people. Okay, that That's something that I believe in. A lot of the morals that I have developed is I've developed it a little bit from my upbringing when I was younger, because I always had a spiritual side. So some of it is me taking things like from my biblical lessons when I was younger. Okay, a lot of it also is just from experience and seeing me suffering and dealing with people harming me in certain ways, you know what I mean? Or feeling like they could jeopardize my life, or giving uh, other people the opportunity to make choices for me. Like, I do believe, like, my entourage, the people that I used to know, like that I went to school with or whatever, some of these people were choosing my jobs. Some of these people were choosing my opportunities, choosing my life, right? And I look at that as a form of stealing. Okay, so anytime somebody harms a person, that's something, or relates to harming a person, these are lessons I would teach a child too. You know what I mean? So that they grow up knowing that they need to be self-sufficient. Instead of stealing credit for other people's work, they need to work towards their own ideas. You know what I mean? And this is the kind of person that I am. You know what I mean? This is the kind of person I am. I know that a lot of people, like the guy who was doing the readings, saying that I am not like other people, or whatever. I'm not. I don't like to throw people under the bus. I don't like to sit here and think it's okay to cancel people. I don't think it's okay to steal people's credit for their work. You know why? Because I know what it's like to sit here and put so much effort into something, hoping that your life is going to change and get better, only for it to get worse. Okay, I know what it's like to suffer. All right, so I would never inflict that onto somebody else. So in order for me to make sure that I have a child that does not do that, this is something that, you know, a child should understand. You know, not touching what doesn't belong to him from the very moment that he's old enough to sneak that chocolate chip cookie and have that discussion with him or her. You know what I mean? Yeah, and definitely talk about, you know, anything. Always do the best you can to take care of yourself, and do not take things that do not belong to you. That includes credit for work, ideas, property, etc. Okay, now, gosh, I have like two more of these to go, and then I'll be done. Okay, but anyway, I think most people also know that I'm somebody who stresses the importance of finding what it is that you love about life and indulging in it as much as you possibly can. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to kind of clarify this, because a lot of times people like to put words in my mouth, okay, as if I'm thinking that I can live off in la la land, and that the only thing in life is to swirl around in front of a mirror in a pretty dress, okay? Yeah, those things are nice, okay, but some people think that I'm so obsessed with those sort of things that, you know, I'm not focused on the nuts and bolts of reality of life. I'm way too familiar with the realities of life, and I understand there's a lot of suffering going on here. But what I do talk about is finding the things that you do love, and when you have time to do it, because it does make you happier, and it does help and ease the impact of hell. Okay, so I don't know. I'm going to be releasing some of my videos, little by little, that I made for the Swan Song, the defunct Swan Song Manifesto, so that you guys can watch some of the things that I've been putting out. But I do talk about, in this one particular video, it's called Wear the Flare in Your Hair, where I'm talking about different, like, for example, hair arrangement, or what do you call it, hair accessories, like barrettes, adding color, hairpins, and stuff like that. Those things make me happy. I like making those things, okay? And, you know, when you find things, like if you enjoy making a craft, or you like drawing, if you like sewing, if you like arts and crafts, and the things that you enjoy is what helps bring you uh, some sort of feeling of balance, okay, to all the negativity that you experience, okay? Like, you know, in my case, you know, there's a lot of things that I like to incorporate. You know, I like to incorporate color. You know, it's nice when you have, like, for example, if you're working in an office and you have a little bit of an office space, and they say it's okay to decorate, and you know, you have to follow the guidelines of what you can and cannot, because some companies is like, you can't just put anything on your wall, okay? But some people are like, okay, you can put whatever you want to on your cubicle wall, as long as it's not sexually exploitative or something like that, or offensive anyway. Then that's nice, because you can hang like a pretty picture, or you can put like a saying, or maybe I don't like to use like magical symbols like in the workplace. Okay, even though legally I would have the right to do that, but I don't like doing it. Why? Because I'm the kind of person just keep my opinion to myself. Okay, so like let's just say for example, I felt as though the work environment was really tense or whatever, and I had the ability to, I wanted to be more peaceful. I might, have a picture of maybe like a white colored flower, like a gardenia plant or something, to add like, a little bit of peace to my office space, okay? It's these little things that you love that make life, I don't know, does it make it worth living? Because I'm going to tell you what, life is pretty shitty. I'm going to tell you what, life is shitty. Unfortunately, there's too many hours of sadness, too many hours of darkness, too many hours of blah, too many hours of, and unfortunately, I get a little nervous when I think about looking for work, right? Because I don't want to have to work in that kind of environment anymore. But I'm in a situation, I don't know what I'm going to do, okay? So I dread these sort of things, okay? But I know that, if you find the wrong job, it can suck the life out of you. And I know that working at BP Trucking, that was sucking the life out of me, and I hated every day of it, okay? So, for example, if you're stuck, like, I hated wearing a uniform, I don't want to wear a uniform. I don't, because after all this issue of people putting me down and trying to make me a public spectacle, which I will never forgive, okay, making this a public issue, trying to make, draw attention to the bullying issue, I will never forgive that. I will never forgive that. Okay, it was insensitive, it's wrong, and it's like dehumanization. But this is the kind of stuff you get from the demiurge. Okay, the kind of jacking off, the kind of the pleasure that people get out of other people's pain, and then try to make it a religious issue. I'm completely against that. Now, that's not in any way me saying, oh, well, Maria, all you care about is, wearing nice clothes. That's not the point. The point is to try to tear a person down. Okay, and I didn't appreciate it. I don't deserve that, especially when you think about me being constructed in the first place for the purpose of some sort of competition that I would never want to be in. Okay, now I would say clothes make me happy, but when I had to wear a uniform, there was no joy in my job. I hated the job all the time, and so people really need to consider whether their jobs they're fit for their kind of jobs. Because if you're doing that, if you're somebody who enjoys, that's one thing that helps make you move. That's not the right place to go. Okay, but I do give examples in this particular video that I have made. It's called not wear the flare in your hair. It's actually called the Everyday Alchemy. Okay, and I haven't posted that up yet, but I will shortly. Everyday Alchemy is basically, how to cut corners. Like some people, they might want to incorporate things like maybe their favorite socks. If they're stuck wearing a uniform, which is miserable, I will tell you, I wanted to burn I hated BT Trucking for that. And I will never forgive them for that. Why? Because you're racially harassing me. That's why. I will never forgive that. Okay? Never. Ever. Never. I will never forgive you. Ever. Okay? The very fact that you threw me out of a job, that's my right. Like as if I'm some sort of animal, or I don't have the right to have those sort of things. Yes, I do. Okay, you don't treat me that way. I'm still getting angry about it. Okay, but those are the only things I care about. My passions are the only things I care about. I do not care about other people. Okay, I mean, I do. Like obviously, if I was sad about the little kid, being responsible for the wallet and stuff like that, but you don't sit here and try to make me into something like I have nothing. Like I'm nothing. Taking away, you have no family. I have nothing. Okay, and then you're going to take that away too. This is why I'm saying is the demiurge is all about the demonic and all about suffering. Okay, but it's the passions. My passions is what keeps me here. Okay, it's my stuffed animals that keep me here. It's my paint that keeps me here. It sure as hell ain't the people. So I encourage other people to find what it is if they're passionate about it. If you're passionate about football, and you're at work and like I said, a lot of men do work in offices. A lot of times when I think about office work, I think about women. I don't know, but because I do, okay? Because most people that I've ever worked with in an office are women, but there's men. What if you're an NFL football player? Then you can get like NFL like office accessories and stuff like that. Helps you go. You know what I mean? It's allowed, okay? Because sometimes, people are really, really picky about what's allowed in a cubicle and what's not, okay? But it's these sort of things that help you trudge along with whatever garbage you have to deal with in the hell realm, okay? So definitely your passions is what gives you light in this darkness. So indulge in that. Indulge in your passions. Okay, so this is my last one, and this kind of goes along with the belief, the core belief about respecting all walks of life, which I do. Okay, I respect all walks of life, even though certain races, certain religions, whatever, may not agree with my life. I do understand that everybody's life, as long as they're living and breathing, have a reason to be here on this earth plane, hell, doing their time for whatever reason, okay? And it's not my responsibility to intercept with that, okay? So I pretty much, like I said, I go about my own business, I stay in my own lane, and I do everything I possibly can to not intersect with the destinies of other people. I'm here for my own reasons, trying to get through it, and I try to do so as peaceful as I possibly can. Okay, I don't want to be responsible for arguments. I try to, just live my life based on the things that I know that I'm supposed to do, and according to, you know, within the guidelines of the law. Okay, so that's it. I'm just doing the best I can and coasting through life and trying to get over this. I do want to follow up with a few a few words about, being a targeted individual and why this, it's obviously affected my life and it has, I'm not saying every targeted individual feels the way that I do. I feel as though there's certain issues that make me a little bit more different or puts me apart from other targeted individuals, mainly because of the race issue. And when you consider the two individuals that were involved, meaning the King Tut and his wife, what they represent to the people who cloned me, that makes me a little bit different than other Egyptian people who were cloned, mainly because of the deity issue and the royalty. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not somebody who I just don't have it in me to be interested in fighting in competitions. I think throughout these years that I have been existing in different vessels, originally starting off with this just going back to King Tut's wife, okay? Um, Something within that time period, as well as the being Prince Alame, who has turned me off against politics, okay? Meaning like, uh, I don't like to talk about social issues very much, and I kind of stay away from a social life. Okay, mainly because it was designed that way. See, I was created on purpose as a play toy for people like King George V and what do you call it? Queen Elizabeth. Okay, these people were into world domination and getting back or hurting people that were of different bloodlines that they saw as rivals. Okay, mainly I'm supposed based on the issue of and my readings of what is his name? The Emperor. The Emperor did not want to be a Christian. I'm trying to get some more information. I did a reading recently, which I posted about him not rejecting Christianity, and I think there was some sort of issue between the Emperor and Prince Alamehu. Okay, I don't know if from what I get, like I need to read more into this. I think the Emperor was a little bit freaked out about the whole creation thing. I don't know. It just seems like it was too much for him. Okay, but anyway, um, uh, finding all this out and looking out at my life and thinking, oh my gosh, this is what this is. I will say it really messed my mind up a lot. I wasn't happy about it in any way. I was happy to know who I am because I do believe that in our spiritual journey, it's important to know. This is my opinion, okay? And like I said, it's not for everybody, but I believe that spirituality and your DNA makeup plays a big role in your connection, okay? And I'm somebody who am very grateful and wanted and feel as though this is a spiritual sign for me to know at this time, okay? So I appreciate me coming to know who I am, even if I only got to know 2 lives of me, okay? That's enough. That's plenty enough knowledge for me to know. I'm very content with that. Okay. I know that, you know, some people feel as though this Christian agenda is important, and they use religion in a way that I thought would not affect, you know, my existence here in the United States. But sadly, there's still people who have these underground groups that want to, you know, push the Christian agenda and use forceful measures in doing it, as if, you know, I was somebody who was outright protesting Christianity. I didn't, but I will say that I don't agree with the way that Christianity is practiced, and then trying to force people into a religion that, um, you know, is distorted. You know what I mean? I could never accept a religion that I believe that was derived from the demiurge. And like I said, I try to keep the issue of Jesus out of this as much as I possibly can. Because, you know, I'm somebody who, if I'm not a Christian, I do not, you know, I'm not a part of the Abrahamic religions, okay? Because that's not who I am. Okay, I'm Egyptian. Okay, and even though I didn't, you know, grow up, you know, acknowledging like the Egyptian deities, you know, naturally, I obviously did embrace my mysticism that literally just runs through my brain. That, I mean, my veins. This is who I am. Okay, but I do recognize and respect Jesus Christ for who he, you know, what he was supposed to do, or what he's supposed to represent, like a healer, somebody who was, you know, a chosen one. That I respect, okay? But there's something about organized religion that is practiced in this manner, the forceful way, the hypocrisy, something that I will never deal with. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Jehovah's Witnesses really quick, and I try to be as respectful as I can about this, but no, I'm not going to change slides. I'm just going to finish up right now. I'm getting tired anyway. But, you know, when it comes to the cloning thing and Jehovah's Witnesses being a member of this, okay, Jehovah's Witnesses say that they're very distinct from different religions, right? Like they always talk about other religions being Babylon the Great. There's something wrong with other religions, right? But yet they're still in the same boat of the whole cloning thing, okay? So this is why I get a little irritated with hypocrisy, okay? I'm not comfortable with it. And since I've understood that people do a lot of double talking and a lot of double thinking in their mindset, because people really don't know what they believe, they say one thing and they do another, I understand this is another proof and confirmation that we do live in hell. Okay, the ignorance and the ignorance and the evil. And I'm going to say that I've known a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses throughout my entire life, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is, you know, and I'm not talking the organization as a whole necessarily. I'm just saying is, you know, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. Okay, and in my life, things have to make sense, and if they don't make sense, I'd rather not deal with it. Okay, so I'm sorry that, you know, people made up these lies about me. I'm sorry that I got dragged in, my reputation got dragged in the mud. I'm sorry that I had to suffer for 50 something years. I'm sorry. What makes me sadder than anything, that you guys made my dad cry. Okay, I will never forgive that. I'm never going to get over it. I'm never going to get over the fact that you killed my father and reduced him to something that is absolutely just, I can't even describe it. But see, I know I'm putting a smile on the faces of some pathological asshole, and I know it. Okay, but I feel like I'm going to say it anyway. You know why? Because I have suffered and carried the weight and the burden of something that I should not have carried. Okay. I don't know, you know, you can have your religion and that's fine. All I know is that I have the right to not be a part of it. And so this is the last thing I'm going to post about my personal beliefs, how I see things, how I live my life, and now I just want to live my life, and that's it. Okay. I will be posting videos that I made for the Swan Song Manifesto. The Swan Song Manifesto will continue making videos, meaning, like, you know, if I choose to. I'm not going to feel any high pressure, seeing as how I can't monetize my work. But I did create some videos. I do think they should be seen. I'd like to share them. Okay. But I, you know, I will be doing that in the future. I still want to continue working on my quarterly newsletter, and it will be where I will continue making it and putting it out each quarter, which will be in September. Why? Because my life needs to. I want my life to be recorded in somehow, some way, to be expressed. And that's my choice. And I think I should, because I have been somebody who has been abused for so many years that I feel like I deserve something. And I know these people will never give me what I deserve. Okay? Never. Never going to be equal measure for measure. It's never going to. Okay? So the only thing that I can do is ask for that and seek that myself. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey, I want to thank you for taking the time out to watch my video. If you want to see more videos in the future, make sure you like my videos and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new content. Thank you so much again for watching.